Johnny here. This is a re-upload of a previous Halloween special, as we have been super busy lately. Busy doing what, you say? I'm glad you asked, rhetorical device. I've just launched my first book, Detonator. I hardly know her. More details in the description, but right now, let's get on with the show. Hey, I'm Johnny Lynch. I'm here with Glenn and special guest Mike Johnson, comic book author for Superman, Star Trek, and according to Comic Vine, the DC Universe Halloween Special 08. We're here to examine how tropes bleed across movies, video games, and TV shows. And this is our Halloween special. Welcome to Dystropia.
I need to write down these phrases.
It's fine, we're recording everything.
Artistic, screeching. Alright.
Alright, so this episode, we're going to be talking about horror. This is the least prepared I am for any episode. I have not written a single thing down. I have nothing in front of me.
We should explain, Johnny is very hungover because Johnny got older last night.
Yeah, I don't age, I level up.
Yes. Okay.
So I figured I didn't want to be hungover on the podcast. I just wanted to be still drunk on the podcast. So
here we are.
Fantastic, but I will happily talk about presumably Silent Hill.
Okay, and we're joined today by Mike.
Yay!
Hi.
Mike is a wandering minstrel. No. Introduce yourself. Explain what you do.
I'm not going to talk about myself.
You know you are.
Hollywood
You're
Mike.
from Hollywood. You're meant to be able to talk about yourself.
What's your elevator pitch?
I have a real job out of all three of these people.
Yeah.
I write comic books. I write Star Trek comic books.
Yeah.
For the people.
Former Batman, Superman.
Former
Supergirl.
Superman, Batman. Former
Supergirl.
Supergirl, thank you.
Yeah.
Which you're...
Green Lanterns.
Did you Google me?
No. We had a great discussion about
I
Superman.
was
Green
talking
Lantern.
to you God knows how long ago about
Dark
stuff.
Horse comics miniseries called 8 that people should go find because I get residuals for that. Raphael Albuquerque drew it. He's a big, fancy artist. Yeah, I've been over in Dublin working on a secret thing that we can't talk about, but happy to be here on the podcast. First American on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm really honored about that.
You're number one this time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're just here to talk about horror because it is the season.
Yeah.
Think
Is this the Halloween podcast?
This will be the Halloween.
this will be one. Yeah, I'll put it out. I actually put it out the day before. We normally post on Tuesdays. I'll put this out on the Monday, which will be Halloween night.
Excellent.
So just to make sure it's in spirit of things.
Yeah.
I'll put some sort of creepy reverb on the intro music or something.
Yeah.
Well, the occasional sound effect of someone screaming in the background or Dracula laughing. I don't know. So just I know it's a kind of a wide open topic, and we're just kind of what are good examples of horror that people want to communicate to the world, to the 7 listeners.
Well,
we
given
have,
that
or however many it
the
is.
Halloween podcast, talk about the fact that they're doing another Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Are they doing
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Is she on board?
Yeah, she's on board.
And apparently they're throwing out
Everything after like the second one or
the
something.
second one, which means Season of the Witch. They can't throw out. Is it Season of the Witch? Halloween 3?
Oh no, but like H2O was gone, and those fantastic pieces of thing.
What do we think about that remaking?
Didn't they just remake it?
No. So
What did Rob Zombie do?
he botched Friday the 13th.
Ah, that's what that is. Yes.
But Rob Zombie can't make movies, and I'm sure there's at least one fanboy.
But you look
right
at how
now.
popular these new movies are, like The Conjuring and whatever, Saw and everything. People want fresh horror.
I have
what I mean?
so much respect
So yeah,
for those
that's prime territory to tell a story all over again.
Yeah. But they don't want to see Friday the 13th. They've seen Friday the 13th. They want something, right? Because an element of horror is that it's new, is that it's scary.
Yeah.
Like remaking horror.
Yeah, like there was one of the ones I wanted to talk about. It was like one of the films on my list was remade, and when it was remade, it was essentially shot for shot, bar the ending.
Force Awakens.
No. But it, like the original was of a subgenre of horror that I don't like, but I was very impressed with this particular film.
Are you gonna tell us what it is, or we just?
Well, if we're still talking about Halloween, I just want to nod to it here,
Oh, okay.
so we'll get to it later. But when I saw the remake, and it was just shot for shot, and I was like, what the fuck was the point?
I know what this
Beauty
is.
and the Beast.
I don't know. Yeah, it's Beauty and the Beast. It's Psycho.
No, see, it wasn't an English language film originally, and it was shot for shot remake, so
Let the right one in.
so Americans didn't have to read.
Dangerous Liaisons?
No, it was Martyrs.
I don't know.
So it was essentially just remade, so American audiences wouldn't have to read, because for some reason film studios don't trust the people of America to read.
I would say that's probably a valid concern.
I always think it's a bit kind of like a bit insulting, like, you know, that it's, you know, no, we're gonna hide the wordy words, and you're going, no wordy words.
It's good business.
And even during the films nowadays, they usually have someone say the name of the film. He said the thing. Just so it's like, I am on the right film, like halfway through it, like.
So I've watched A Tale of Two Sisters about 4 different times in 4 different movies. A Tale of Two Sisters is a Korean, thank you. Horror movie. It's fantastic. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's one of the ones that if I think people are at all interested, I was, give it to them. It's a very slow burn.
Yeah, it personifies slow burn.
Yes.
It is the definition of.
But I'm a big fan of it, and I like watching the making of and stuff like that. They're in the background changing wallpapers, like just patterns on wallpapers and things like that, to give you that weird feeling of unease. You're like, something's a bit weird here.
Yeah.
So they take a long ass time to get to the point. But then I watched a German movie called Mama, or not? Yeah, or was it called Mama?
Yeah.
No, that's
Mama, isn't it?
no. It was.
No, Mama is the Spanish one. It's
Yeah.
you're thinking of it's Mother or something like that. No, it's not Mother. It's
Might be like Hello Mother or something like that.
yeah. I know the one you're on about. Some with the 2 young boys.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I watched that, and then I watched 2 different American movies, and about halfway through all of these movies, I'm watching A Tale of Two Sisters again.
What were the American ones?
I turned off the American ones.
I think one of them was a remake of
Wasn't
Tale
one
of
of
Two
the
Sisters.
Nicole Kidman? What was the Nicole Kidman?
The Others.
Wasn't that a remake of something?
That was a remake of something. But I've watched that one so many times now. But you can't. It's one that has a twist ending. It's one that has like something towards the end of the movie changes. You're like, ooh, like I may have to watch this again. But because it's a slow burn and because all these movies are remade, I've been watching movies and just looked at it and go, like, as I'm watching, just Google something on my phone and go, shit, I'm watching a remake of the movie where I know the twist ending. It's like, I'm out, I'm done, I'm just going to let everybody else watch this and just wander off.
Yeah, it's. I don't mind some remakes if there's a reason to do it. Like when they take a film from 40, 50 years ago and they're like, we actually have the special effects technology to do it now, or we have the budget to do it now. And that's why I don't mind the fact that they're going back and they're making the new Predator film. Because part of it was the fact that Shane Black, the guy directing it, and I think he wrote it as well.
He's in it.
Wasn't that much cheering?
He was in the original Predator.
Sorry, yes, he's in the new one.
Yeah, he's working on the new one, but he was in the original one. He's Hawkins, as far as I remember, in the original one. And the man has proven that he can write and he can direct. He wrote Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He's directed the likes of Iron Man 3 and stuff like that. He's proven he can do it, and the fact that he was involved in the original, it's somewhat reassuring that he'll be like, nah, I don't think we should do that.
I enjoyed The Good Guys.
Good Guys is a great film as well. Yeah. But I like the fact that it's someone who was in the original is involved in this.
Exactly.
Yeah,
or if
nice.
you're gonna like,
to
your point about technology, like, the Ben-Hur Charlton Heston was a remake of the old black and white silent. Like, obviously you're gonna remake, but that movie was so well done with state of the art. I mean, well, they had a real chariot race.
Yeah.
But like that chariot race was so good, you don't need to do the CGI version of the chariot.
Yeah, no, that's
just because you have the technology doesn't mean you need to.
And
I want to see the pod racer version of it. It seems like
the live action, right? The practical effect pod race. I'd be down with that. That would be great.
But that's the thing, like, and I don't mind, if a remake is 20, 30 years on, you're gonna get at least one, possibly 2 entire generations of new audience for it who just didn't see it, and people who don't watch old movies and don't, that's fine. What I hate is when, that film that was out like 4 years ago, but it wasn't. It didn't have a big name American actor in it or actress to say, okay, we got to remake that.
There's you can watch footage of the American remake of the IT Crowd. on YouTube.
Oh,
And
that's
no.
painful.
It's the funniest thing in the world because they've kept the set nearly exactly the same.
Yeah.
They've kept one of the actors, Richard Ayoade,
Yeah.
who plays Moss, and then they've replaced Irish dude with Jeff from Community.
Yeah.
And they've replaced Jen, the lady in it, with interchangeable blonde lady.
Yeah.
And it is the funniest thing in the world to watch them try to do it. You're just watching it like, what are you doing? What are you?
It's I'd actually love to have a shit pilot night of just we have to watch the pilot for the American Red Dwarf,
Yes.
the pilot for the American IT Crowd.
Yeah. I mean, I know what they're doing. They want to do 50 episodes. They don't want to do like the 6 episodes
they're looking
that
for
British
The
shows
Office.
do. Yes.
Yeah.
They want to start with the 6 episodes that the British crowd are like did, and then turn into a 22 episode season, and then keep that going for a while.
Yeah, but even then, like the thing about Graham Lemon stuff is that like the jokes are so dense because he writes short seasons. Like if you think about it, like anyone who grew up watching Father Ted as it was going on week, was, you know, like the amount of jokes, the amount of one-liners, everyone knows all the phrases, everyone remembers it. But the fact that that's only 25 episodes in total, people are just in shock. Faulty Towers is only 12. Police Squad is 6. It's like people don't realise that it's just because they're so dense with material. It's rather than like we're going to have a 2-minute lead up to this one joke. It's like, no, those 2 minutes should have 17 more jokes in them. Like, don't waste the time. So
there's jokes in those shows where I remember watching them at the time and like laughing, and then watching them back, I've missed jokes because I was laughing at the time where there was more jokes going on.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the great thing about his writing style, and I just don't think that would translate to the bigger, longer series format.
Yeah.
Same for like Black Books and all that. They're all quite short, compact series, and I think they're better for it. There's brevity is the soul of wit. You know, I mean, it's that can go for a full season of applies to the full season, not just the episodes. Like,
this isn't a very scary podcast.
I know. Don't worry, we're gonna have someone jump out from behind the couch later. It's grand. Yeah, I don't know. Like, the Halloween remake, though. I mean, see, Halloween for me wasn't my own. We always had this argument, me and my friends growing up, of like which is the best series of the kind of the 3 big originals. Is it Nightmare on Elm Street? Is it Friday the 13th? Is it Halloween?
Hellraiser.
Yeah,
answer is Hellraiser.
But even then, like we didn't really consider Hellraiser one of them. We were looking at those 3 because they're a measure of years before Hellraiser came along. They were there, like so. For me, it was always Friday the 13th was the one that I was always.
I was a Nightmare kid.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's I think
like Nightmare.
But I wonder if Nightmare, actually, because it veered into fantasy a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Into dreamscapes and stuff, and I just ate that stuff up. So you combine that with the horror, as opposed to like sort of more real world slasher.
One thing I really loved about the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and I only kind of appreciated it looking back on them years later, was that the horror is brightly lit. They don't hide everything in darkness and shadow.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
It's always bright and visible, and it's the only one that has a character that actually gets to talk and has
that's probably part of it too.
He's having fun.
He was right. He's the Joker essentially.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, he's the Joker amped up to 12. Like it's and Robert Englund is just such a good.
He's so great.
Good actor. Like he just carries it. I didn't mind the remake of that either. The remake I thought was interesting.
I haven't seen it.
So it's
that great actor though. Jackie Earl Haley plays.
Can I remember his name? Yeah, he plays Krueger.
I need to see that.
And my Lord and Savior Clancy Brown is in it.
Oh really?
Yeah, he's the father of one of the kids. So he's involved in the original thing and all that. But yeah, it's they don't go for the comedy angle. They don't go for the witty one-liner.
How dreamy and special effecty is it?
It's a lot of the like.
They play more real world.
No. It's like they're still like when it's in a dream, they're a little bit more subtle about indicating they're in a dream because a lot of it's done with just like they'll have a slight filter around the edges or it's a slight shift in color palette.
Yeah.
Just to kind of indicate it, and you're like, okay, but it for the most part, it's I just thought it was a good example of like you can remake something and try and go a slightly different route with it, where they didn't try and go the whole we're gonna have the wisecracking you know, main character. It's just going to be this kind of, you know, there's no comedy. It's just he's angry. He's just pissed off. But I mean, the computer effects don't always add stuff. We know that, and I think Friday the 13th did it a little bit, where Kevin Bacon got the arrow through his throat and stuff like that in the first one. Yeah. Halloween had barely any of it, but Nightmare on Elm Street had a load of heavy prosthetic work that just worked, and loads of practical effects. Like there's the bit in the start of that where she's in the bed with the crucifix on it. On the wall above him, and he almost comes pressing through it. Yeah. And it's such a good scene.
Yeah. That to me is Nightmare. It's got these practical effects, but they're not the ones I expect. Like it is a hand coming up out of the bath, or it is the leaning against a wall, because it feels very dreamlike. It doesn't make logical sense, but it is this kind of strange thing that while the scene is playing out, anything could happen. Any strange thing could actually happen.
There's a scene that always resonated or stuck with me in my head is the bit where he's going down the alleyway and his arms are just really long.
Yeah,
and they're like,
so you can scratch the sides.
Yeah, and that was just like...
I think part of that comes from the guys who made it, like guys like Wes Craven and John Carpenter, with these great imaginations coming at a time when practical effects were really coming into their own. It's sort of ironic that, you know, amazing practical effects had this heyday, and then the CGI started right away. So you had these 80s movies with these amazing practical effects, right? And then, you know, you have The Thing, you have the Imperial Walkers and Empire, and then, you know, just 10 years later, you've got Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And actually not even 10 years later, I think in 86 was Young Sherlock Holmes, where they started with the
stained glass
window guy,
really
you know
good.
what I mean? But I think sometimes I wonder if CGI robs some inventiveness, so that you have Wes Craven in Nightmare, you have John Carpenter in The Thing, taking practical effects, and there's a tangible.
I think the problem
that enhances the scary.
I think the problem with CGI, particularly in the early days, less so now, because of the way they do multiple passes and stuff. But in the early days, I think the problem with a lot of its usage was the director wasn't somebody who was looking for the visual punch or the visual kind of, oh, this has to be like tactile, and you know, they were just like, and make it look like this. And then that would be given off to a sub studio or a separate studio who would just work on it and then come back, oh, there you go, it's done.
Yeah.
And there was no iterative process on it.
Yeah.
You get that more now, where they're like, okay, we need to tweak this, we need to tweak, because it used to take so long to render anything back in the day.
Yeah.
That it was a case of like, yeah, we have to budget 2 months for this, because it's going to be a month to actually build the thing and skin it and rig it, and then it's going to be another month to actually render everything out into the sequence that we want.
Yeah.
And if you want changes to be made, best of luck to you, because that's another 2 months.
Yeah.
So whereas nowadays it's like, how long can it take you to do that? Or they go, we need this, and they're all right, well, I can get a rough model going now, and then we can change the skin later, and we can, and it's a lot more. There's a better feedback loop on it.
Yeah.
For creators, but I think part of it as well is that it's just the directors who were using it were using, like you were saying, practical effects were kind of at their pinnacle, and cost wise CGI was more expensive, but they would use it because they a lot of the times they weren't arsed. Well, just CGI it, I don't care. Whereas if you actually look at the the directors who use CGI correctly, I mean, the one that sticks out for me is, in terms of horror, is Peter Jackson's The Frighteners.
Mm.
And The Frighteners had some fantastic stuff in it. Like there was even like the surface runner, like when he was basically under the surface, kind of almost in a nod to Street.
But the tools are only as good as the imagination behind it. So you've got Peter Jackson. Yeah. Peter Jackson can stand there with Wes Craven and John Carpenter.
Oh yeah,
he's got that.
And he's shown the practical.
The other guy who right now I can't wait to see his new movie is Guillermo del Toro.
Yes.
Right? There's a guy that is using CGI as a paintbrush, as a tool in his arsenal. So, and that's actually to our topic is Pan's Labyrinth. I love, and that was a movie that combined straight up horror imagery with real world horror with like
the fantasy horror was the escapism from the real world
exactly
horror.
Right, and it amplified the real world horror. So I don't think people think of Pan's Labyrinth as a horror movie. They think of sort of a magical realist fable. But
what would be your favorite horror movie?
My favorite horror movie is the original Exorcist. and I'll just to go into it now. The reason it is the juxtaposition of the boring domestic life with the worst thing you can imagine upstairs.
Yeah.
It's literally the upstairs downstairs of The Exorcist, where and it's a slow burn, right? Mm-hmm. And we should talk also about the way that a lot of these movies have slow burns. Like, so my second favorite is The Thing, John Carpenter, which is a really slow burn.
Yeah,
right?
It's an incredible film.
You're just getting to know the characters. I'd argue Alien does it the same way. You're just getting to know the characters.
Yeah.
But Exorcist, it's that juxtaposition of and what that says is it could happen to anyone. So you've got, and Ellen Burstyn is just phenomenal, and the way she plays, gradually, like, something's wrong with my kid. I'm looking for help. And then you have that time jump where Regan's been going off for weeks or months.
Yeah.
And Ellen Burstyn has just sunk in this time, and she's just adapted this domestic routine of, like, I'm going to get up in the morning, I hear my demonically possessed daughter screaming obscenities, I'm going to go downstairs and make my toast and my coffee and wait for someone to help me. That really struck me, where she's almost like, oh yeah, come in and see my demonically possessed daughter. And also The Exorcist is shocking. I think you could show The Exorcist to people today, and they might be like, oh, look at the makeup or the vomit or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, the psychological stresses and the stuff that comes out of her mouth, it's still to this day like, oh, wow. And by the way, one of the most successful movies of all time, definitely of its type. But it was a blockbuster because people were like, I am shocked and appalled at this. I must see it again.
Yes, yeah. There's two stories around that I always loved about it, and it's weird. Like The Exorcist, I mean, I was raised on horror. My family figured out at a young age, and one of my older sisters figured out at a young age, the easiest way to babysit me was to put a horror film on, and I'd just be hooked on it. Like, I saw Alien and Aliens before I saw the first Star Wars films.
Really?
I was like, because the age of 8.
And did they scare you?
No, because I knew it was makeup, and I knew it was, so I was fascinated by it because it was the only format where they really showed off insane costumes and insane.
Were you a scared kid? Were you scared of the monster under the bed and stuff?
No.
I was a neurotic little guy. Like, every corner of everything was gonna kill me.
No.
And so I couldn't watch gore. I couldn't watch anything.
No, it was if I was the last person coming up the stairs and I had to turn out the light, like, I'd run up the stairs. But, like, at night time, but, like, other than that, no.
But, like, John Hurt Chestburster, you're more sort of fascinated.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting. That's cool.
Well, no, see, part of it was I had seen Aliens had been on the TV, and my sister sat me down and said, watch this, and I watched it, and I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. Aliens, the action film, not the horror film, like, because they're two very different genres.
Absolutely.
Like,
one's a roller coaster, one's a haunted house.
Yeah, and then she was like, did you like that? I was like, I loved it. And, like, my mum had been like, oh, I don't know about that, and my sister was like, no, he'll like it, and she watched it with me, and I was like, that was fantastic, and she's like, cool. And we were one of the first people on our street to have a VCR player. And there was a little shop across the road in the big shopping centre directly opposite my house, but there was a shop in there, and the front half of the shop was like jewellery and some shit like that, but the back half was all videos. And this was back when, like, and it wasn't CD, it was just, you just walked through, and there was no door, it was just, it opened out, and there was videos on the walls. But they had all the video nasties because there was no regulation at the time.
Of course.
So, like, Clockwork Orange, Cannibal Holocaust, they were all there on the walls. Like,
you didn't watch Cannibal Holocaust as a kid?
No. But I remember seeing the covers. I remember them being there.
Yeah.
And she went over and she got Alien, and she showed me Alien. She's like, okay, this one's a bit scarier now. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, and there's only one alien, just so you don't get your hopes up. Because I was like, okay. Yeah. And I watched it, and I was hooked. I was hooked. I was like, because particularly, I think it actually had an interesting impact that if you watch Alien as the first one, even if you manage to somehow get to the point where you're completely shielded from everything alien and aliens related, until you watch the first one, there's definitive scare moments.
Yeah.
There's the moments with when the egg first opens. There's the moment with the chest burster, and then there's
Dallas in the when Dallas gets grabbed in the shaft.
Exactly, yeah, and like,
so to speak.
There's I didn't go there. You went there.
There's all these moments, but then if you'd seen Aliens first, you know they come out through the chest. You know what the eggs look like. So these become moments of, oh shit, it's gonna happen, and it's more excitement than a horror then. So this is, I think, why when I watched it, I wasn't scared. I was like, it's gonna happen, like, and I was really, let's go.
Well, I want to talk about Alien 3 for a minute.
Go for it, go for it.
Because when I saw it, I was like, what?
Really?
because they killed Ripley, and I loved Ripley like I loved friggin' Han Solo. It was like Ripley was iconic action hero at that point. And now I think it's brilliant. I love it.
I loved that's been my favorite
actually,
since it came out.
My uncle, who's about 10 years older than me, and so as going through the nerd stuff growing up, and he's a big nerd, he would sort of give me the older perspective, and he was like, that's the way this trilogy, that's how it had to end.
Yes.
It had to end with Ellen Ripley sacrificing herself and being implanted herself.
Yeah.
The other fun part of Alien 3 is just seeing all these actors that you know now.
Yes. Like the amount of them that are in it. And like when I saw Alien 3, I was excited. I remember seeing articles in the newspaper talking about, she got her head shaved for it. And I was like, okay.
I remember I actually saw in the theater the year before I saw the teaser. There's a famous teaser where you see Earth and it starts to crack open. And the log line was, in space no one can hear you scream. On Earth everyone can hear you scream. And this was when the original conception for Alien 3 was going to be that they come back on the ship to Earth.
Yeah.
It's new.
Yeah. It went through like 3 iterations. One of them was meant to be on it, and that's actually done in book form. There's a series of novels and graphic novels that were done.
Earth War.
Yeah, there was the Alien Earth Hive, I think it was called. And then there was like, because it's Earth Hive, Nightmare Asylum, and Female War. Nightmare Asylum is essentially Alien Resurrection.
Right.
Before it went through 5 directors and got butchered multiple times.
I still love that movie. I still love that movie. There's so much good stuff in that movie.
Brad Dourif's in it. Brad Dourif plus aliens. It's, okay, this is fine. I'm gonna watch this. No, I think like 3 is probably my favorite of all of them. But part of what I liked about 3 was it brought it back to. We're going back to what the first one was. We're going back to that whole thing. But rather than it be a group of people who, oh no, we're helpless and what do we do? It's like
the one guy
they're all killers. They're all
Spoiler
killers.
alert, the one guy you like, Tywin Lannister.
Yeah.
The one guy you're like, oh, she's got a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And he's gone.
Yeah.
And you get one of the iconic close-ups in film history, which is just Fincher being a genius. Which is
right up to the ear.
Face coming and not eating her.
But there's no, that whole series. And
I have
even
a question for you. Random nerd question.
Okay.
Does the alien eat what it kills? Or does it just kill?
It eats brains in the video games.
In the video games, it eats brains, but no, I think what it's meant to do is it's meant to eat while it's growing. And then once it's grown, it doesn't need to eat anymore.
It's a killing machine.
Yeah.
It's a killing machine, but sometimes they bring stuff back to the queen. They bring stuff back
implantation.
So they're sometimes dragging away.
They might snack on it while they're bringing it back.
Yeah.
Well, no, there's a whole thing with in the extended lore and all the books. Like, I've read all the novels that they've written in the Aliens universe and stuff, and the 4 spines that come out of their back.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually it's like a saddle, and facehuggers sit in there.
No way.
So what they do is they walk up to people and they'll capture them and grab them and then reach back and pull a facehugger out and put it onto them, and then bring it back and have it.
That's little.
Have another thing. Like
by the way, the novelization for Aliens by Alan Dean Foster is incredible, and if you guys love, if you are a huge Aliens fan and you love the Marines and all of them, read the novelization by Alan Dean Foster because you get so much more Marine personality and backstory and stuff. It's
amazing. Thing, just to tell you that one of my favorite horrors. It wouldn't be top of the list, but it's.
I'm going to super quick jump in for an Aliens one, which is I saw Alien.
Yeah.
I was pretty young. I really liked it. I loved all that kind of horror stuff, and then I started collecting the toys.
Yeah.
And the toys are the snake alien, the panther alien, the rhino alien.
Oh, right.
It was as though they had implanted on other species on Earth.
Which is actually part of the lore.
Well, that's part of the lore, right? Yeah. You become what you implanted.
Yeah.
But in 3, it's the dog, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, in 3 director's cut, it's a cow. It's not a dog.
Yeah, it's a cow.
Oh, wow.
It's a cow.
This doesn't seem scary to me.
No, but
like it's just rumbling down the...
Yeah.
The snake alien there, I'm pointing at something on my shelf.
Yeah.
It's the Cobra one. So I had never seen Aliens and started collecting all these toys and assumed that they were all in the movie Aliens.
Brilliant.
You're like, where's the panther alien?
So, it started and I was like, this is kick-ass, and they were going to an alien, a planet, and I was like, they're not going to find panthers on that planet.
No, everyone knows that LV-426 had a zoo. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. So, it's like Noah's Ark, you know.
So I was really enjoying the movie, but scrunched up brow watching it going, huh, and people were like, you're right. I was like, I don't know how they're going to get to the snakes and panthers and stuff. I don't know.
The 2 hours in, you're like, I don't think I'm going to get to panthers.
It's game over, man. This is game over. I'm sorry. This is not happening.
This is a travesty.
Yes. Anyway, you were saying.
One of my favourites, it wouldn't be top of the list, but is Predator and Predator 2. And one thing I liked about Predator was that Predator in a way was like a merge of Alien and Aliens. In that, so in Alien,
another slow burn movie, by the way.
Oh yeah,
it takes a while. You have the whole like bandit camp shootout.
Yeah, and it's but there's a whole thing where in Alien it's like, oh, we're helpless scientists, miners, whatever. We're not built for combat.
Yeah,
we get stalked, we get picked off one by one. The next one, oh, there's Marines, and they take out about 50 or 60 of them, but there's still more, and we get taken out.
My eye.
Yeah, whereas in Predator, you have an elite special forces unit, which they go out of the way to show.
Awesome. Who's the Native American guy? He's great.
Oh, he only passed away recently. Yeah, but Billy, is the character.
Billy was a badass. Like, I feel like Billy. I know Billy. Spoiler alert. Didn't make it to the end, but I just want the tracker versus the Predator was great.
Yeah. I mean, like there was but that whole thing of they were an elite special forces unit, and there was only one bad guy, and he still took them apart. And you know, it's
not entirely.
No, yeah, okay. The Arnold makes it out. The Arnold makes it out, but it's when he does, it's like even at the end.
Skin of my teeth.
Yeah, he's in pieces. He's just like, I want to go lie down somewhere and sleep.
I have a jaded look in my eye on the chopper. Like, I've seen things that people wouldn't believe.
But yeah, and that was another one that like I'd seen Alien and Aliens, and then that was my sister showed me that, and then my dad was like, I'm going to show you Predator. Predator's much better. And I'm like, okay. And I watched Predator, and I'm like, this is amazing. The day Predator 2 came out in video, my dad went over and rented it, and he's like, I'm going to watch it. And if it's all right, then you can watch it. Because the only thing that they're worried about was like sex scenes.
Yeah, so are you terrified of romantic comedies? Like, like not watch romantic comedies? Like emotional...
no.
Did they fast forward past the flayed naked people at the start, and then after that?
No. So my dad had got it and watched it, and then I came home from school the next day, and my mum had already returned it to the video store because she didn't realise that my dad was like, "Oh, you can watch it." So he comes home and I was like, "Oh, Mum returned it," and he goes, "All right," and he went back over and rented it again so I could watch it. So I'm like 12 years of age, strutting into school the next day. We saw Predator 2 last night, and I'm like, "No way!"
Tell us of the things you've seen.
Yeah, but it was.
It's a fascinating cultural artifact for like what they thought a vision of. Was it 90? It was set in 97.
97,
right?
I think. Yeah.
It's great.
But it's a great film. It's like Predator 2 and Aliens are kind of, for me, they're kind of two of the things you can point to, and Terminator 2 as well, as the these are the sequels that held up.
Well, and Predator 2 is the one where they have the alien skull, right?
Yes. That was the first kind of nod to the AVP universe. Yeah. And thank God they never made films about that, because they'd be shit. But for me, the big horror. I have Alien marked on my list here, but yeah, the big ones for me have always been since I encountered them was Candyman and Hellraiser. It's just Clive Barker doing horror. Yeah, and he does it.
He's another one there with Wes Craven.
He's
Carpenter.
He's done it's one thing that I've noticed about his horror films that he does is that he will take it a step or two beyond what most films would stop at. But what he does is there's always a safety word. There's
Jesus
thing.
wept.
No, but it's like in Candyman, don't say his name 5 times into a mirror. Yeah. In Hellraiser, don't solve the Lament configuration. It's a simple thing. But it's Lament configuration on the wall.
It's brilliant too because it sets up a ticking clock automatically, right? It sets up temptation.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Oh yes, yeah.
Great story.
But it also means that it's what they call it, the asshole victim. It's the characters bring this on themselves.
Don't touch that. Yeah. Don't touch it.
Do not press the red button.
Yeah. It's a lovely Chekhov's gun you've got there, and it's like it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah. But even then, it's like again, that's another series that they didn't try and hide stuff in darkness. That they don't try and they use practical effects a lot.
Yes.
And they don't try and disguise it or it has to be all dark. Like they do it for the reveal of the Cenobites in the first film, where they all step out of the thing, and then there's one moment where I want to say Ashley is her name now. I can't remember the main character's name. Where she's she's running around the house trying to hide from them, and she runs into the storage room. And the Chatterer has a sheet over him, like a clear plastic sheet, as if he's like a dummy or something. But then he starts moving forward, like little stuff like that. Yeah, but you're still not you're not hiding what's on them.
The original Hellraiser had that upstairs downstairs thing as well with Frank in the attic.
Yeah.
And he's reforming, and I'm sure it's an allegory for sickness or illness or something strange, or this sort of very kind of Kafkaesque thing of we've got something in the back room that we don't really talk about. But no, you're right. It isn't. When he's hiding in darkness, it's because he's receding into darkness. It's because he's kind of hiding and he's ashamed of himself. It's not because the movie's trying to do something.
Yeah. It's more like he's wary, but then he'll step forward and show himself. And it's
so there's an honesty to it. It's not cheap.
Yeah. Yes, and and I think part of it is that like Barker's so interested in the detail of what something looks like that he wanted to show it off. It's like, I want people to see how this looks. I want people to see how detailed it is. Which is, and it worked for the series. It very much made the series be. It almost echoes Asian horror. Asian horror doesn't do jump scares. They show you something and they have it looming over the character and the character doesn't notice. Or they spend the 30 seconds with the character like cowering as this thing like, looms on them. And that's kind of what the Cenobites do. They show up and they're like, we know you can't hurt us. So we're in no rush whatsoever. And it's like, you can't hurt us, you can't run away from us, so we can take our time. And that allows, from a visual standpoint, it allows them to just kind of be the slow reveal, but over the course of like a single shot, but then it lets it linger on the screen and lets you observe like, wow, that's a lot of fucking detail on that costume.
So is it like Western horror is actually tends to be more in the POV of the victim, and would you say Asian horror, you are...
Asian horror is
outside the victim's POV.
Yeah, because Asian horror for the most part is usually tied to, a lot of it's tied to location.
Yes, it is.
It's set in this building, this town, this bridge, this river, this whatever. So I mean, The Grudge is kind of in one of the versions of The Grudge, because he's made 42 of them or whatever it is. He'll never be not making that film, but there's a point where the character's standing there and one of the ghosts is basically hovering behind them. And is like maybe 3 inches from the back of their head. And the character's kind of like, I think something's behind me, but they don't want to turn around. But as an audience member, you can clearly see it, and you're like, Jesus, that's creepy. Because it's just looming.
So it's de facto not a jump scare, because it's...
So we were talking about this before. A jump scare you forget about 20 minutes later. You leave the film, you don't remember the jump scares, you remember the bits where you're creeped out.
And this is why I think horror films are so popular. Like, they're just still... reliable box office right now in America, is because it is a ride that you go on.
Yeah.
These sell tickets the same way that theme parks sell tickets, right?
Yeah.
So you see, if you look at the box office but I mean, look at how successful it's been. But look at all these other lower budget movies that do gangbusters that are basically thrill rides. Yeah. It's because that's a communal experience that you can't get at home.
So I have huge respect for the Bauhaus guys, I think it is, who did The Conjuring and Sinister.
Blumhouse,
Blumhouse, sorry, that's the name. Because when those started coming out, I was like, oh, this is so cheap. It's all jump scares. It's all this kind of stuff. But the people I know who like horror love them.
Gotta give the people what they want.
And it is the thrill ride. And then I started watching, I love horror movies, so I started watching loads of stuff, and I watched Rings recently, that new one. Yeah. And there's so much bad shit out there. There's so much stuff where people are trying to be clever, trying to do this. The Blumhouse guys, they have a formula that works really, really well. It pulls you through. It does feel like a haunted house ride. It does feel like you're on the roller coaster. You do all the bits. The jump scares happen, and that's fine. Or something weird concept comes up, but it's not, about the character. It's not about the location. It's about you, the audience. They're doing stuff to like kind of go, we're gonna have a scary scene in front of a mirror now. You know it's going to be scary. We know it's going to be scary. This won't develop the character in any way. But, there's a fucking weird thing in the mirror. You're like, ah!
And people buy the ticket knowing that's what they want. That's why they're going.
I don't know. I mean, like, I prefer to kind of... I like the slow burn stuff. And I like when they let stuff... And particularly, like, in Eastern horror, where they just let it loom. Yeah. And you're kind of like... just some of the other ones, the ones I wanted to quickly mention was, like... Like, Martyrs was one. So, Martyrs is a French film... from 2008. It's basically what could be described as, it falls into like the torture porn categories, but it's very much not. It falls into that category because one of the central premises of the film is that there's a group of people who are capturing and torturing young women to try and make them transcend pain and to become martyrs, so they get a vision of the afterlife before they're there, so they can find out what's going to happen. And it's...
So there's a deeper deeper.
There's actually a use to it.
Well,
which I was interested
abhor
in.
torture porn, but one of my favorite horror movies that I just stumbled on cable was Hostel 2.
Right.
Have you seen Hostel?
I ruined Hostel 1.
Okay,
for
so I actually haven't
cinema.
seen Hostel. But Hostel 2, same kind of thing. You know, your innocent young people are kidnapped and brought to rooms where terrible things happen to them.
Yeah.
But it's, and I believe this is the same concept as Hostel, but it's rich people pay money, just like you'd rent a hotel room, but there's someone in the hotel room for you to torture however you want. And it's set in like the darkest nightmare version of Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bratislava.
Totally.
Town,
But it was.
Which is a real place. They should have put a fake place on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there it is, however maybe ham-handed it is at times, a commentary on Western European or American sort of voyeur travel and the idea that like
we're going to slum it for a while.
that there are there's still a first world and a second world. It's not just first world and the third world. There's this second world of poorer European areas where people go to have fun, but also a commentary on just the rich can do whatever they want, and some people want a solid gold toilet on a Lear jet, and some people, the ultimate power fantasy is that you have a person that you can do whatever you want to, right?
I didn't watch the second one. The first one, myself and two of my friends went to see it in the cinema, and we laughed all the way through. We ruined it for pretty much everyone in the cinema because we were like, "This is just so fucking bad."
Yeah.
Because we're all like diehard horror fans,
sure.
and we just like, what is this piece of shit?
But it wasn't like Saw, which at least had.
Saw had some mystery to it.
Yeah.
The first one had some mystery. It had a lot of suspense.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate that. The fact that they're doing a new Saw now when the main character, spoilers, has been dead 8, 9, 10 years, whatever the fuck.
Oh, the Jigsaw.
Yeah, it's like cut the fuck on.
The other
just
movie
call it something else and move on.
The other one I wanted to bring up that everybody hates, but I love, like legitimately love, is Event Horizon.
I love Event Horizon.
I've had to watch that a bunch of times because people keep telling me I like it. I don't like it, but people keep telling me I like it. They're like,
you're gonna miss out. Unfortunately, they're showing it in the cinema here next week.
Ah, they are
for the anniversary. They're showing it.
I love
because the bank holiday weekend in Dublin. It's not next week. No, it'll be the end of the month. So no, it is next week. Yeah, it'll be next week. I keep thinking we're at the start of October. The bank holiday weekend in Dublin every year is the Horror-thon in the IFI, the Irish Film Institute, where they spend Friday evening, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, all day Monday, and I think Tuesday evening, showing horror films. And that's where I saw Cannibal Holocaust, with the director of Cannibal Holocaust doing a Q&A afterwards. They've shown, like, Michael Bain was there, and they showed the Aliens director's cut. He got up to the Q&A, and then halfway through the Q&A he went, right, we're not talking about Aliens anymore, so I want to talk to you about my directorial debut.
Yeah.
He talked about that, and then they showed it. I saw Predator in there. I saw Akira in there. They show a lot of they get like classics. They get films ahead of time. They had The Witch before anywhere else.
Let's talk about The Witch a little bit.
So
wait,
The
last
Witch
thing on Event Horizon is, I think what I love about it is the combination of Barker-esque horror with sci-fi.
Yeah.
It is like if Star Trek was a horror franchise. Like
my favorite thing about it is you never actually see anyone die in that film. Well, no, sorry, you see maybe 2 people. Everything else it's implied.
It's implied. But and by the way, it implies but doesn't. You get flashes of the hell. First of all, I love the idea that like trying to warp takes you to hell.
Yes.
Right. That's just a juicy
like
idea.
There's a fan theory that is actually a prequel to the full Warhammer 40k universe, where they travel through the warp, which is actually hell.
Whoa.
And it's actually like, this is a reference to that, and they're like, which I was like, I like that.
Let's talk about The Witch. I saw The Witch a few months ago. A friend recommended it. And talk about slow burn.
Yeah.
But also a movie that just is ballsy and it's its own thing. Like it's like we're doing this, and we're not going to give you what you think you want.
Yes.
I went in fresh. I went in no idea what it was. Didn't know it was like exactly what it was. This kind of slow movie.
A period piece. It's a period
piece. And since then, I've read up on it. And they were saying that it's based on all the accounts of stuff that people believed was happening at the time.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a date movie, so I brought a date, and we went to see that.
First date.
Close enough.
Okay.
And it was fun to go and watch that. But afterwards, we were like, I was like, I'm sorry, that was really good. Like, I'm not gonna be like, oof, that was, sorry about that. I was like, I really enjoyed that movie. And she was like, yeah, it was great. And then afterwards, she goes, that dude kept chopping one shirtless though, right? Yeah. And, like, anytime he was angry, he was like, "Oh, this wood is too big." He just chop more wood. He's like, "I don't think this is helping." He's like, "Maybe if I took my shirt off a little bit."
I was
Very
expecting
specific.
expecting the 17th century sax solo to begin every time. It's like-
No, The Witch was an amazing movie. I
was-
highly recommend it.
there was some stuff about that I loved. I love the fact that it wasn't shot in a standard aspect ratio. They shot it in a slightly more square aspect ratio. It was to basically make the woods look taller. So it's every time they look at it, I think it's a 1 to 1.88 ratio or something like that, where it's actually designed to increase the vertical size of the film,
Right.
just to make you notice, like, Jesus, that's the big thing. Your man's voice, like, I know it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't. Sorry, it's not a special effect.
For American listeners, this is a quick digression. Can you explain what your man means? When you say your man, this is an Irish turn of phrase.
Yes.
Your man, the main guy, the character, the bloke.
That guy.
What's his
That
face?
guy.
Your man.
Your man.
Your man. There we go.
This
Continue.
fella.
This
Sorry.
fella, the chap.
I hope.
Right, his voice was probably the thing that sold me on going to see the film, because when I remember seeing the trailer and the lead up to, and in the trailer there's a bit where their son, I can't remember his name, when he's sick and they're all praying over him.
Yeah.
And he's praying, but being able to hear that all that fervent prayer happening, but the father's resonant, real sonorous voice, but also kind of threatening. And I
What's
was
that
like,
actor's name?
I cannot remember. I it's not coming to me.
He's
right
great.
now,
He's in
but
The Office. He plays the slimy friend in the British Office, the real Office.
The real Office. But
Sorry.
but yeah, it's just when I was watching that, I was just like, yeah, I could see those characters. I could see that being like, this is a group of characters that I'm suddenly interested in just from the trailer. The trailer did what the trailer was meant to do. It got me interested.
Yeah.
Which was, you know, I thought it was fantastic. Just some of the other two quick ones I want to mention is The Witch is on my list here. I can tick that off. Hang on. Done. The Borderlands.
I haven't seen that.
So Borderlands, a found footage film. It was 2013 it was made, but it didn't get a proper cinematic release till 2015.
Is it an
I think
Aussie
it was.
movie?
No.
Is that Monsters you're thinking of?
Yeah, I'm thinking of Monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Borderlands is about it's found footage, and it's about a group of guys from the church being sent to investigate reports of a haunting and an exorcism. And one of the guys is from the church, and they had these little head-mounted cameras, so they kind of wrap around like shades, almost, or like Google Glass or one of those. And
Oakley's priests.
Yeah, but the whole thing is that it's a priest and then a tech who was hired to film everything. And the priest is the cynic. The priest doesn't believe any of this.
Yeah.
He's like, no, it's just symbolism. No, it was mental illness during the blah. That's all this is. And they go out, and it's one of the few films, they go out to investigate, and they're basically in the middle of nowhere. Like, they get lost multiple times trying to find the place, which is usually a good sign in a horror film. But it's one of the few films that there's a bit of a slow burn to it, and then as it gets towards the end, I felt physically uncomfortable watching the film. Now, not scared, just really uncomfortable. Was it
a Blair Witch kind of effect?
It's a bit more overt than the Blair Witch. The Blair Witch was a masterpiece of film footage, but this was a bit more overt in showing you what was happening. And I don't want to spoil it for anyone listening, because this is something that I think people should experience. But when I watched it, I was squirming in my seat, and I was watching it at home, and I'm like I can't watch this. No, I'm really there. And I was watching it on like VLC player or whatever, so I was able to miss it was only 5 minutes left. Oh god, this is right. And like for a horror film to do that to me is very rare.
It's called Borderlands?
The Borderlands.
The Borderlands.
Yeah.
I had a very similar experience with Eraserhead, where the first time I saw it, I had a list of 1,000 movies you should see before you die, and I was living as an artist at the time, so my routine would be wake up around noon, watch a movie, cut out my stencils and stuff, go and paint all night, go back in, watch another movie. So I'd watch 2 movies a day, but I'd watch them sitting at a computer, and I'd watch them with headphones on, and just be sitting up. So it's not exactly how you're supposed to experience Citizen Kane, but it was cool. So I was rocking through all these movies. I was doing all the like 3 Colors Blue and Forrest Gump and just like this mad range of stuff. I don't know where I'd got the list from, but Eraserhead was on it, and I knew I liked David Lynch, so I started watching it, and I started feeling physically ill. Like, it's so oppressive.
Yeah.
The sound is so fucking oppressive, but I didn't realise that was what was happening. And I had the headphones on, and I was hunched forward, I could feel it in my guts. I could feel stuff churning inside me. And I was like, I think I'm actually sick. I need to stop. So I took the headphones off and I was fine.
That's wild.
And put them back on, and it all came back.
It's the screaming of the baby, and it's like the whole atmosphere of that film.
Yeah,
like
it's like a weight on you. It's so, and it was amazing.
But you're also getting the full effect of like the sound design.
Yeah,
that you don't get in the theater, or even when you're sitting at home and that
It's industrial. It is like it is people banging on pipes. It is steam escaping from things. Like even just walking through an area, like the character, he's got wet footsteps and things like that. Everything feels oppressive and
like
horrible.
Heightened senses almost.
Yeah, and it dips and it comes back and it doesn't rest on this. It doesn't give you time to do it. So now it's screaming, but now it's pipes and
it's because it keeps changing. Your ears don't get used to it, and so we talked about this before in the episode about audio, where it's after a while your brain will just learn to, if it is a constant noise, your brain will learn to just tune it out.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, if there's roadworks going on outside, after a while you just stop hearing them. If there's an alarm going off nearby, you just stop hearing it. But with this, in Eraserhead, they keep changing the source of the sound. But then it goes from being like a clanging noise, which is very kind of metallic and bassy, to being a child screaming, which is high pitched, to like the rumble of engines, and it keeps on ranging up and down.
There's even an awkward dinner scene in it where it's awkward conversation, and even that's horrible. Like it's cringy and horrible. But there's a scene in it where he puts food in front of him, and it's the little chicken things, and he says, "There you go. They're just like real chickens." And that phrase by itself, I was like, that's terrifying because it implies so much. If it isn't a real chicken, what is it?
What is it?
What am I looking at? And he like cuts into it and it moves, and you're like, oh my god, I'm dying here. What's happening?
Yeah. The last horror film of recent times that I wanted to mention, that like, because I'm not into a lot of the more recent horror like that. I'm not mad on the whole jump scare thing, but the one that kind of stood out for me recently was It Follows. Have you seen it?
I wouldn't call that a horror movie, weirdly.
Really?
Yeah. It to me is like, it's a high concept.
It's a comedy.
People getting folded in half and everything else, and the fact that there's this spectre that only one person can see.
But
is Donnie Darko a horror movie?
No.
It's a psychological something.
Yeah, it's a psychological something.
It's a psychological thriller, maybe.
I don't know. It Follows to me was so high concept that like it's. I'm watching.
See, I like it when it tries for something a little more like.
It's STI the movie.
Yeah, it
like,
is, but
that's to me what it was. It wasn't. I wasn't watching it going, ooh. I was watching it going, this is interesting. What you got?
Yeah, but I thought there was some moments in it that were like I suppose what I really like about It Follows, for anyone who hasn't seen it, go watch it, or if you're not arsed, whatever. The basic gist is that there is something following people around, and what it'll do is it only ever moves at walking speed. It will only go after the person who currently is cursed by it. Other people can see it if they've had it. But when how it chooses to follow you is when you have sex with someone who it was previously following. Yes. So this is why it's STI the movie. But it's an STI you can get rid of by having sex with someone else.
It's a sexually transmitted haunting.
Yes, and if it catches up with you, it will kill you.
There's a genre.
It'll kill you, and then it will revert back to the person who gave it to you, and start chasing them. So it is also one of these things that one aspect I like is where it shows the self-preservation of individual people, where nobody realizes that like if we just let this run its course, it will disappear. Because eventually it will go back through everyone, and there will be no one left for it to go after.
But this actually reminds me of what we were saying about the Alien movies, where like in Alien and Aliens, people are looking out for each other. There's a sense of we all have to survive. It's a tragedy if one of us dies, right?
Yeah.
Alien 3, not so much.
No, because they're all murderers and psychopaths.
Like, that's an interesting aspect of horror movies. It's like, when is it everybody has to survive and people are united against whatever the threat is, and when is it like every man or woman for themselves?
Between The Ring and It Follows and things like that, there are ones that they realise that, I'm in great danger, but I can fob this onto someone else. I can give this to someone else.
Yeah, and it's like we mentioned before with Ring, where when I first saw The Ring is because someone gave me a copied VCR tape.
Yes.
Really?
A VHS tape, and we're like, watch this. And it was a new tape he'd gotten to make it, but he had even put on a sticker and then partially ripped it off and to make it look like it had done the rounds.
Yeah, that's pretty meta.
And whenever then we showed it to people, we'd be sitting there watching it with them, and we'd have our mobile phones ready to ring them after they saw it of it, and just to scare the shit out of them. But yeah, it follows. I don't know. I it does classify as horror. There's nothing, but again, it falls more into the Eastern horror thing of the looming threat.
Yes.
There's no real jump scares. It's all about the slow.
A good example of that I really enjoyed recently was Get Out. Have you guys seen Get Out?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit lost on me. It was doing it, and again, that's Take a Knee, the movie. It is. It's about like kind of. I just watched it start to finish. Was like, that's really interesting, and again, it's like that. It's like Cabin in the Woods. It follows Get Out. It's like, this isn't a horror movie. This is a meta movie where they're kind of using a horror genre to say something to me. And this one, it's about
race relation.
Yeah, race relation.
I wonder if it has a different effect on American audiences.
So that's one thing. I think it came out at exactly the right time and exactly the right kind of audience in America.
And it went there. Like, it wasn't afraid to go there. It's like, yes, these are evil white people.
Yeah. But I was watching it, I was like, this feels like a John Oliver bit. Like, it's
interesting.
To me, it was like, and no, I know, but it's not, I don't see it every day. It's not something for me. So I was kind of watching, nodding along, going, no, I hear you. But
yeah, now in the States, it's now more than ever. It's in the conversation, in the daily conversation.
It was a super good, competent movie, but the thing that it was hitting at, I was like, I feel like I'm not the audience for this.
Basically, we're saying, Johnny, you're racist.
As a racist, I really didn't feel. I feel like I'm being persecuted.
Exactly.
I mean,
you don't go to the movies for that.
No, it felt like a bit that the guy was doing.
For the most part, as well, it's racism is something that I know it's in all societies, unfortunately, and I know it is even in our society, but it's something that I don't really see in our society. Not just because we are for the most part
all white,
homogenous,
but even then, like the so it was myself and a group of my friends were out a few months back, and a group of kids went by, and two of them would have been of African ancestry. And one of the lads goes, "Oh, fucking kids." He's like, "Oh shit, am I racist now for saying that?" And I'm like, "Well, no, they're like a bunch of 14-year-old blokes who are screaming and shouting on the road. They're just dickheads." Yeah. And he's like, "Yeah, it's a good point." And then I looked at him and went, "Hang on, you're black." And he's like, "Oh yeah, right, sorry, yeah." And he just like just completely amazing. Zoned out on it. Like, he was just, his instinct from Irish culture was like, "Oh shit." And I was like, "Did you forget?" And he's like, "I'm mostly surrounded by white people. I just assumed." I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah. I'm like, but he was raised in Ireland. Like he moved to Ireland when he was like 3 or 4. So it's like he has an Irish accent. It just doesn't occur to him. But it was just that funny thing that he was like, "Oh shit, right, yeah, no, never mind."
There is some comedian who was a bit about saying like he was in Walmart and they were doing a special offer on apple juice, so he got like 9 things of apple juice, and him and his girlfriend were like really excited, and it was like a black lad and a white girl, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so happy," and he looked back and he said there was an old guy standing there, and he just had this sour look on his face, he was shaking his head, and I was like, "What, you angry I'm buying all this apple juice?" He's like, "There's apple juice for everybody, don't be an apple juice hater." And then he's like, "Oh, it's because we're a mixed race couple, that's why you're so angry." He's like, "Sorry, I was so excited about this good deal that I forgot that racism exists."
The world would be a purer place if we all thought that.
Wow, the Halloween podcast got real.
Hey man, like the one on post-apocalyptic scenario starts off talking about porn for 20 minutes.
It is 20 minutes of porn. So on The Exorcist, I'm going to come all the way back to this because we were talking about that and practical effects, and I love the watching stuff about The Exorcist, and they were saying that they tried to do as much as they could practically, including her raising off the bed, so they could bring in people and be doing a scene and have her raise up. So like the priest's kind of halfway through doing a blessing and his hand shakes. It's because he was not expecting that. He kind of knew something was going to happen, but they were able to do something in the scene. And like the thing of her coming down the stairs and saying to, like, there's a people forget there's a dinner party at the start where there's an astronaut, and she comes down and says, "You're going to die up there," and then wets herself. And again, did that in front of everybody and did that.
Linda Blair, yeah.
Incredible. My favourite part is the guy who was the young priest actually was a pastor or a priest or something. Actually, like they brought him in, not so much as an actor, but to be like, you know,
an authority.
Yeah, but they ended up using him, and he was the actual
Father Karras.
Yeah. Not the older guy, the younger fella.
Father Karras, not
Damien
Karras.
Karras.
Yeah. So the very last scene.
His name's Damien Karras, isn't it? Like,
Is it?
The first name is Damien.
Is it?
I think it
Oh,
is. Yeah,
wow.
I think it is.
His
Because it's referenced in in Exorcist 3, which is what the actual Exorcist 2 should have been. Exorcist 3 was a remember the same guy. But
I'll talk about Exorcist sequels in a second.
Oh, okay, cool.
There's the last scene, spoilers for a movie that came out in what, 70s?
Yeah.
73.
73, Jesus.
Yeah.
There's a bit where the priest needs to bless a dead body, basically. And they did the scene a couple of times, and the director just goes, oh. And he walked over to the actor and said, "Do you trust me?" And he went, "Yeah." And he slapped him as hard as he could across the face. Just nearly cleaned the dude out. I went, "Now do the scene." I walked back and they did it, and your man's hand was shaking, like he was all adrenaline after that. And he does the scene, hand shaking, freaked out. And they were watching it on the monitor, and he just turned to the script girl and goes, "I just hit a priest." Like, there was talk of that production being cursed and everything. It was like, she's like, if it wasn't cursed before, it fucking is now.
See, that was the thing. Sorry, I think I mentioned earlier. There's two quick stories about that. The one, everyone thought that film was like, it was banned in a lot of countries for a long time, and everyone thought it was because of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church were one of the main people trying to get it unbanned because it portrayed the church and religion in such a good light. They actually wanted it,
and it basically said that all the stuff they're telling you is real.
Yeah. But they were like one of the biggest champions of that film. Second was, there's a story about a guy in the BBC had seen it. So he was reading the book, and he was so freaked out by the book that he threw it off a pier one day. Right, because
killed a dolphin.
And no. But his one of the guys that worked for him found out about this, went and bought a copy, the same edition of the book. Basically, went down and ran it through the water and left it in the guy's desk.
Wow!
And I'm like, that's
so
an
good.
amazing trick to play on someone.
Wow!
I was for Exorcist sequels. My favorite sequel to The Exorcist is called The Ninth Configuration. Because it's written by
William Peter Blatty.
That's it, thank you. And it is about the astronaut from the dinner party.
No, it's not.
At the start, and he is so freaked out by that young girl saying that to him that he goes, and on launch day he refuses to launch. He's in a space shuttle, and T-minus 3, 2, 1, and he goes, "No, I'm not going up there. No, I'm not going to the moon. No."
What's his reason in this movie?
He's too freaked out. He has religious mania. He freaks out. So the movie is set in an insane asylum, and he is the main character in it.
Who's in it?
I have no idea.
It's like 75 or 76.
It is a terrific.
I think.
It is an absolutely terrific movie.
You have it here.
Yeah, it's going to be there somewhere. I'll show you afterwards.
Somewhere on the wall.
Right between the Great White Hype and Fletch, right here.
Yeah. It is probably there on the wall somewhere, but it is an amazing movie, and it's a comedy, and it's kind of about...
Yeah, it's a dark comedy,
It's a very dark comedy, but one of my favourite bits in it, it's about a new doctor who's come to this asylum, and it's for specifically people who are... I think it's for people in the military, and they want to do a test to see... and including this guy who was an astronaut, and it's to see if these people are faking it or whether they're actually insane.
Oh, wow.
And can you tell the difference?
That's really good.
So that's what this doctor is tasked to do. So he decides he'll have an open, like, these are all really smart people. These are all, astronauts and high up military people. He's like, I'm going to have an open door policy. You can come to me anytime. And there's a great scene where he's at his desk, this new doctor. He's a big dude, and he's just like, it's the middle of the night, and he's like, fuck's sake. And he's doing paperwork, and the door just flies open, slams against the wall. And in walks this guy, and he goes, "Let's go to the beach." And he goes, "It's the middle of the night, and it's raining." He goes, "I see you're determined to start an argument." And he just pulls up a chair, and they start talking. And I just love that line.
And thus became Johnny's ethos for life.
Yes.
I see you're determined to start an argument.
But that is an astoundingly good movie.
What's the title refer to?
The Ninth Configuration. It is something to do with the chances of life appearing by accident.
Okay.
That it would be a number so astronomical as to be functionally like it is not useful. So it kind of is, no matter what you believe, maybe there is a God, because like just the fact that life exists by itself
is such a small chance of it.
Yeah.
For me to so here's the thing, if someone's out there and they've watched The Exorcist and they've never seen any of the sequels, never ever watch the second one.
Right.
Because The Exorcist 2, did not involve anyone from the first one, pretty much.
What's up with the giant scissors?
Exorcist 3.
Okay.
So Exorcist 3 was originally in development under the name of Legion, and it was written and directed by William Peter Blatty.
Right.
So it's the guy who wrote The Exorcist was writing and directing this one. And it was I was only part way through that they were like, can you tie this to The Exorcist? And that's where the whole thing of it being Father Damien Karras coming in again on that. But that legitimately has some of the funniest banter in any film I've seen between I can't remember who played him now, the detective character in it and his priest friend, and the pair of them, just the way they go and see It's a Wonderful Life or something like that, and just the abuse they're giving each other afterwards. It legitimately doesn't feel scripted. It feels like just two friends sitting around winding each other up. The horror stuff in it is fantastic. They like the bit with the scissors.
Yeah.
As a scene, that scene's nearly 2 minutes long, and it's all just the perspective of shot down the corridor, and people, and you can hear what people are saying, and they're going about their business, and then just the real quick, the character coming out with the scissors, the zoom in. The first time I saw that, it freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's so well done. But you can even picture everyone walking into the room and being like, so we all good to go? And the guy there with the shoes going, mm-hmm. You know, and it's like, all right. The bit with the granny running on the ceiling, all that type of stuff. It was just, again, I have respect for a horror that doesn't try and hide what it's doing. It gets a little tedious when I go to watch a horror film and 90% of it is shadow and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, no, come on, show me the scary thing. Like, the bit at the end though, because there's the character of Father Karras is played by two people. So when he's not in full dialogue mode and when he's drooling on himself, he's character A, and when he's character B, when he's actually in dialogue, he's Brad Dourif. And Brad Dourif, I could watch in anything. He's just has such a good presence, particularly for horror. But at this point, I feel like if I ever got to make a film, I'd make him the good guy, just because no one would see it coming. Oh, Brad Dourif's in this horror film.
You could have like a cool sort of sci-fi horror TV series where he was the main dude.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That'd be great.
Yeah, he's one of those eminently watchable people, and
we'll talk about Resurrection or Alien Resurrection.
Yeah, he was in Alien Resurrection.
But he's got that great scene where he's like,
yeah, when he's imitating the alien through the glass and that, and he's teaching it to respond to the cold burn and stuff like that.
Scene.
But he's just got this great screen presence, and like he spends that entire scene at the end of Exorcist 3 in a straitjacket on a bed, and at never at any point in that scene do you not feel like he is the most intimidating person in the entire film, which is just a great accomplishment of acting. Like, but yeah, that's actually kind of considered the proper sequel to The Exorcist, because it was the one that involved William Peter Blatty and stuff like that, and it was I think the reason why he didn't do number 2 was because he was involved. He had contracted to do something else. And he had to. They were sort of like, "Oh, we're going to shoot it anyway," and he's like, and they're like, "All right, whatever," and they just made shite.
Yeah.
So, should we move off from films? We've been talking about films a while.
Yeah, might as well. Do you want to talk about Silent Hill?
Games. We go games. Yeah, no, we go to games, and I've specifically not put Silent Hill on my list of games just because I knew if I did,
I'll jump in.
I was tempted to go. So I'll start. So Silent Hill, and just Johnny screaming on the podcast.
So well, I want to do Silent Hill because I want to.
Do you like Silent Hill?
I do, as that happens.
As that happens.
No, I want to talk about the difference between horror and terror and fright, because it's something that we've been all kind of talking about and saying why we like certain things about movies. Generally, a movie falls into one of the categories. Like the Shining is about terror. It's about the unseen stuff. It's about looking at Jack Nicholson's face and knowing that bad shit's going to happen, but you don't get to see it yet. You get to like it's all about that implied
creeping
stuff.
dread.
Yeah, it's the like horror is nearly revulsion. You see something, you're like, oh my god, like it's the worst thing.
But what's the difference between horror and terror?
So, horror is that you've seen it. You see the monster, you see the thing, you see the horrible creature, and your body responds, and you're like the fright. So first of all, fright is a cat going and coming out,
jump scare,
and you go whoa. And you realise there was nothing to be scared of, and that was just a fright. You're like, give a fuck. Like, that's cool. Somebody threw a cat at me. Great.
So terror's more like dread.
Terror is that dread. It's the Lovecraftian. I can't look at it, but I know like it's there and it's deep within me, and I like it's that feeling of being near an edge of a cliff or something. And you're like, I'm not going to jump off, but there's this horrible feeling inside me of what it would be like to jump off.
Right, yeah.
And the horror would be jumping, but the terror is that feeling
like,
inside you.
It's anxiety.
So you bring that up, and it's like there's a form of vertigo, which is I want to jump off.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
So
that's actually a different type of vertigo.
In the special features for Silent Hill 2, they were talking about this. They were like, well, we want to make a game that has terror. It's not about, it's like, so I like Dead Space, but that's frights. Like you walk past a dead body and you give it a kick to make sure it's dead, and you walk past, and the next time you walk past it jumps up and you're like, you cheap motherfucker, you were dead. You feel like you're talking to an actor. You were fucking dead a minute ago. I'm sorry.
I've never played Silent Hill.
Have you not?
Is it what does it fall into?
It's survival horror.
It's survival horror, but a lot of it's very psychological.
Yes. So the idea with Silent Hill is Silent Hill is what you bring to it. If you are the Silent Hill 2, which is just this, it's high up on lots of people's.
Explain. Silent Hill is a hell dimension.
Yes.
That you can access through Earth.
Okay, and it's
like
in this town called Silent Hill.
Yeah, it's a pocket dimension, and it was something horrific happened in Silent Hill's history that was so bad it created a terror into what is essentially a hell dimension. Mm-hmm. But when you go in there, your guilts, your fears, your what you're ashamed of, all manifests into Silent Hill and then tortures you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That sounds delightful.
Yeah, it does. And as part of Silent Hill 2, they were saying, the production team were saying, well, we want to make it terrifying, and we want to make it terror with like that real feeling of terror. So we'll have the monsters, we'll have the jump scares, we'll have all this stuff in it, but we want to see how to make terror. So they would get Francis Bacon paintings and put them up on the wall and just stare at them and go, I am feeling dread looking at this. Like I'm looking at a screaming pope, or I'm looking at a flayed man, or I'm looking at something. But it's not blood and guts. It is just a screaming man, or it's something strange.
What's the gore level in Silent Hill?
Surprisingly, not that high.
No, not that high.
There's a lot of kind of body horror.
Yeah.
As in the people that you see and the inhabitants of Silent Hill have been deformed or are malformed in some way. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it looks almost if it was natural, as if they just grew a weird way. Other ways it's like somebody has bent them into that shape, or somebody has...
And the gameplay is that you dispatch them?
You have a torch and a radio, and the radio starts making static noises when there are monsters nearby. And then you know that there's something. And if you're good enough, you can kind of tell by the static possibly what's coming.
Yeah.
But the idea is it's a series of set pieces that are each like kind of really horrible and terrible.
What keeps you... So I'm somebody for whom like Donkey Kong is a terrifying concept and game.
Right.
Absolutely horrific. Like, what would keep me playing and not just be like, I can't handle this?
So the story is what drags you through. You start. I'm going to use Silent Hill 2 as the example because it is the one that is on everybody's greatest game list. You start off as James. You've come back to this town. Your wife is dead. She died some time ago.
Mysterious? Mysterious?
No, she died of an illness. Okay. But you got a letter from her saying that she's waiting for you in our special place in Silent Hill.
Wow. And
he comes back to this town. He just has to. He's compelled. He's like, well, I mean, like this is him. Eventually revealed that this is him punishing himself. Where he's like, well, I have to see if she's there. Mm-hmm. So he gets there, and he's nearly in a dreamlike state.
Because isn't he like, it's her handwriting? It has to be her.
It's her handwriting.
It's just
and he keeps reading it.
Back when people had handwriting before the internet. You know?
He keeps rereading this letter.
Only she would send this emoji.
Yes.
This emoji sequence.
It becomes this dreamlike thing, and one of the first things they do to raise the terror is you stop your car and you have to go into town. You can see the town in the distance, and you need to walk through a little woods to get there. And they were saying they made it purposefully overlong. You need to walk through the woods and nothing happens. You walk past a well, you walk past some trees, but it doesn't hook you. This is a weird intro to a game where you're walking through the woods. And they were saying we wanted to make you feel like you couldn't turn back. That like you spent 2 minutes walking through the woods, the town's coming closer, it's looming. Wow. And then the first time you see a monster, your car is so far away, like everything is so far away, you cannot go back. The only way is forward.
Yeah.
It's kind of coming back to the Clive Barker thing of you've chosen to do this.
Yes.
So this is on you now.
Yeah.
Spoilers for Silent Hill 2. If you haven't played it, you're not gonna. It is now unplayable.
Wait. I want to play it.
Okay, so
I do want to play it.
The idea is that if you're in Silent Hill, you probably
dead.
Have done something bad. No, you're not dead. You've done something bad.
Yeah.
There is a little kid in it called Laura who runs around. She doesn't see any of the monsters. She's not affected because she hasn't done anything bad. She just happens to be in Silent Hill.
How many Silent Hills are there?
So about 9 at this point. That like beyond the third one, they're kind of irrelevant. Like they're just
When did 2 come out?
2 was 98, 99.
Oh, we're talking like
PS2.
PlayStation 2, yeah.
Okay.
So,
I still have my PS2.
the dude, I won't spoil anything, but the dude is beating himself up over this, and over the fact that, like, while his wife was very sick, he was sexually frustrated, he was, like, looking at other women, he was obsessed with illness.
Pretty deep for it.
So, when you see monsters, some of them look like they're affected by illness, some of them look like mannequins, and they're very sexual, and they're, like, it's long women's legs, and these kind of strange nurses that I'll show up in all the games because there's a reason for that. The little girl who caused the tear in space-time and brought Silent Hill to this area was waited over by a nurse, and she was this burn victim who was bedbound and had so much hate in her that she eventually
caused the tear.
Tapped into this.
Jesus.
Have you seen the film? Have you seen the Silent Hill film?
No.
The Silent Hill film actually does a decent job of explaining the backstory.
Yes.
It's one thing, and I remember coming out of the Silent Hill film and people were like, some of my friends were like, I don't know.
Lena Headey in that movie?
Yeah. Wait, is she?
Rhoda Mitchell and...
Rhoda Mitchell's in it. Don't know Lena Headey, but Rhoda Mitchell definitely is in it. But when
it's that and The Thing are my 2 favourite one gender movies, because The Thing only has dudes in it. It has a female voice at the start on the computer, and then just men.
Mm-hmm.
And the Silent Hill movie was going to be just women, and they shot it, and Sean Bean's in it, and at some point they were like, there are no fucking men in this movie. And I was like, yeah, so what? And he's like, there's no men, you need to put it with Christopher Gans, whoever directed it. He was like, so what? There's no men. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's a movie about a little girl and a mother and a crazy cult run by women, and it's just don't worry. Mm-hmm. So they had to go and shoot a bunch of extra material for Sean Bean just to have a man in the movie.
But it actually kind of works because the Sean Bean's thing kind of interweaves with their story.
Yeah.
But it's the thing about it is the film. When we came out of it, my friends were like, that wasn't really scary. And I was like, did you feel tense all the way through? And he was like, yeah. I was like, did you feel on edge the whole time? He was like, yeah. And he goes, then it's Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Silent Hill is about that whole thing of, oh God, here we go. There's it does a really good job of A, portraying it in a film form, what the town would look like. B, portraying the monsters. The monsters are incredible in Silent Hill, the film. Like, they're so well done because it's all practical effects.
Oh, great.
Except for one thing, the insects. But like, there's just
so
many
baby things as well, the burning baby.
Sorry, yes, I keep forgetting about them. But yeah, but like the rest of like all the major big ones that are kind of hallmark figures from the series, they're all done practical and they all look super impressive. And there's a full like making of on how they do things where parts of the set were designed to slide so they could do these weird camera angles that you wouldn't normally be able to do.
Wow.
And in other films would use CGI, they just used like proper practical effects. And it replicates that feeling of tension.
That's cool.
Which is like the games are very much about that. Like,
well, you asked how many Silent Hills there are. There's everybody gets their own Silent Hill. Obviously, like you get your own punishment, but they can cross over. And at one point during Silent Hill 2, you meet a girl who has been raped by her father and is thinking about taking her own life, and she sees her own monsters. But once you've met her, your Silent Hills change a little bit. So up until then, sometimes you see monsters that look like someone in a bed, and up until then, it looks like maybe I think I'm getting this slightly wrong, but the idea is that like you're seeing sickness and illness and stillness. But once you've met her, the monster that looks like people in a bed are now moving a lot more. They're writhing. And the idea is that now that's the rape monster. Like this, what you're looking at is two people fighting in a bed.
He's getting kind of scary.
Yeah.
Well, you were complaining earlier, so yeah.
There's a bit in Silent Hill 3 where there's a cult that has sprung up in Silent Hill where people now worship these things and they're crazy. And there's a dude in it who's like this librarian character who's like, he wants to see everything. And you play just this girl who's been fighting her way through the town, killing the monsters, fighting through an amusement park, which is doubly scary because now there's all this kind of juxtaposition of imagery of like
happiness
cartoons. And eventually you meet this librarian and he's so excited to meet you and he wants to hear everything. And she's like, did you not see those monsters? I've been killing them. And he's like, oh my God, you see them as monsters? And she was like, yeah. And then there's this weird moment, like, what do you see them as? And he's like, not monsters. He's like, who have you been killing? And then there's this weird moment, she's like, who have I been killing? Like, is it people? Have I been killing people this whole time? Like, what? If we see them differently, what are they? Like, what? And it's implied that you've possibly been killing people up until now.
Yeah.
There's the guys, you were asking why would you keep playing as well.
Yeah.
In the making of, they were saying there's this whole concept of repulsion and attraction. That if you're repulsed by something, sometimes you want to go further into it. This whole thing. And they always do, like there's a bit where there's a dead body in front of a TV. and you walk past it and you're really weirded out by it because you haven't seen a lot of death up until this point. You don't see a lot of like dead humans and stuff, but it's you. It's your character. It's your model of the character in front of the TV in slightly different clothing with his face blown off, and the next thing you do is find a gun in the next room. And it's just those little touches where like now you got to go back and check that body again. Like it's just something in you that you're like, I gotta check something. Or when they give you the gun, all the room is shut up. It's like the joke in the making of was like we kind of wanted to make it feel like Elvis was staying there. Just everything was shot. The entire room was just riddled with bullets, and there's light coming in through the bullet holes and stuff. And there's a gun in the middle of the room, and that's how they present you a gun. It's not like a video game where you pick something up. They make a big deal of it.
That's awesome.
Because it's a lot of the fights, a lot of the encounters in Silent Hill, you don't fight, you run.
Yeah.
Because you cannot beat these things.
So the ultimate moment in any media of terror for me is the introduction of Pyramid Head, which is this executioner character. He is your...
I've heard Pyramid Head.
Yeah, he is the thing.
He is the iconic image of Silent Hill.
But the way you're introduced to him is you're walking down a corridor, and he is at the other end of the corridor behind bars, so you can't get to him and he can't get to you, and he doesn't move. He just watches you.
And breathes.
And there's a door you need to go through. You need to go out and through a door, and you need to approach him, and he doesn't do anything. He just watches you as you come towards him. There's a red light on him. He's standing there. Everything you've met up until now has been a monster that's trying to kill you.
Yeah.
And he is slightly bigger, slightly more imposing, but you just know that this is the bad guy. This is everything you are scared of is this guy.
Why does he have a pyramid for a head?
He's all the imagery in the full Silent Hill lore, the imagery of everything is they were a cult that has existed for 200 or 300 years in that location, and they tortured this young girl, and she basically caused the terror, but everything is a corruption then of what was in the cult. So he was the executioner, so he had an executioner's hood, which has been distorted into this pyramid-shaped head, and part of it is meant to be that it is uncomfortable for him to wear. He is in constant pain.
It's metal.
He is in constant pain having this on him.
But with the character design, they were saying it was going to be an executioner's hood to start with, but that's just a man in a mask.
Yeah.
They were like, well, I can still see the form of him. I can see that he is a man.
Yeah.
So they put this acute angle to like sharp to illustrate pain, to do all this heavy thing on him. But again, with the idea of terror, the idea that you don't know what's under there. Like it is too big to realistically mean that that's just his head. Like there's something else going on there.
Yeah.
And
it's about 2.5, 3 foot long. Like, and it's not a symmetrical pyramid. It's like they've grabbed one of the corners and stretched it.
Well, there's my Halloween costume for this year.
Yeah.
It's
then is a butcher's apron and a very large knife.
Okay.
When I say very large, I mean about 6 to 8 foot long.
I'll find it.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Michael Cthulhu, who's that mental lad who makes the gigantic weapons on YouTube. And he does a fantastic episode where he does the great knives from Silent Hill and also a Pyramid Head thing. But he does this whole thing about saying, like, the original one, it's only like a 3 foot long knife, and in the movie it's maybe 5 foot long. And he's saying that he already knows he's going to get comments saying it should be bigger. He's like, I measured it. We got the original character models. We looked at everything. He's like, everybody always has this thing of nostalgic
in their head.
I don't know, in the film it's big enough that it drags on the ground behind him.
Yeah, I think it is 4 foot and 6 foot. In the game it's only 4 foot tall. Like it drags it in the game as well.
Yeah, because he's walking along and it drags. It's meant to be like super heavy. So when he swings it, it's like a big effort to swing this knife. Even though Pyramid Head himself is ripped. Yeah. He is like big, and because he's one of the only male, like he probably is the only definitively male monster in the entire series, and he's meant to be warped toxic masculinity.
Okay.
That's partially what he is. So that's why he is ripped. He is a bodybuilder's physique, but he is pale and his skin is almost translucent. You can see the veins through it, and he's wearing this butcher's apron, and he has the apron's only from the waist down. Okay. And he has the head, and he has this big, massive, distorted butcher's sword, which is kind of half his executioner's axe, half a knife. Like
I'll say one more thing about Silent Hill to convince you to play it, which is at one point you meet a character called Maria, and she looks very much like your dead wife, but she's not, and has like bleach blonde hair and kind of clothes that are honestly like a little bit too young for her. Like she's this thing, and she gets murdered fairly quickly. Okay. And then shows back up and keeps talking to you and then gets murdered fairly quickly. and it's the first game I played where just this feeling of, it wasn't like an escort mission, it was just somebody who I knew, and she kept dying, and she kept being taken away from me, and it just, every time it hurt, every time
you knew you were gonna lose.
Yeah, and I just, there was something I couldn't hang on to, and I know that, like, at the start of the story, you know your wife is dead, and the whole point is that Silent Hill is taking something away from you over and over again. Like, it presents you this character.
Is this the first one or the second one?
This is the second one.
Should I just play the second one?
Yeah, I think you could just go straight for the second.
They're standalone. 1 and 3 follow the same storyline.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 2 is completely standalone. But I genuinely do like Silent Hill as a setting in that once you know the rules, you can tell your own stories there. And Hellraiser 5, Hellraiser Inferno,
it's essentially a
Silent Hill movie where they just said it. They basically do a Silent Hill. They say, well, this guy's,
and it's actually quite a good Silent Hill movie.
When did they make it? When did that come out?
5 would have been
after Silent Hill.
Yeah, but it's like I don't know if it was a conscious decision, but in terms of commonalities and how it's about a pocket dimension where you are tortured you're tortured with your own guilt and your own failures. It's very much both. It's very much in the vein of Silent Hill. Now, it might have just been like, it could have been one of the writers or the director was like, yeah, I like that, and I don't want to copy it completely, but I'd like to do our version of it as almost like a homage, but also incorporating the Cenobites and stuff, which is like, it was an interesting way to take it.
I genuinely really like the Hellraiser 5. It is such a weird one to pull out in the middle of a series. Yeah. But whoever was making it clearly had a movie that they wanted to make, but it works really well as a Hellraiser. Like, it's not... I've seen movies before where somebody clearly wanted to make it. In fact, one of the Hellraisers, where they do the killer website one, where it's Hellworld.
Yes, Hellworld, yes.
And the Cenobites don't show up until, like, the very end, where clearly there was an entire movie made, and then at the very end, they were like, oh, fuck, we can put a Hellraiser title on this? Alright, change 2 things and throw Cenobite at the end. Boom, done, Hellraiser movie.
But,
cool.
Have you any games that jump out at you? Horror games?
Well, I'm not a horror game guy.
Right.
So I wanted to talk more about the sensation of being scared in a game.
Okay.
And this is going to sound ridiculous, but bear with me. So I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn a lot. And for those who don't know, you basically run around fighting giant robot dinosaurs. But it's a brilliant open world.
I feel like I wrote this game when I was about 10.
And right? Now you can play it.
Yeah.
But there's a feeling of almost like an open savanna. So imagine if you were, it's a little Far Cry too, but like that feeling of
Ubisoft repeating themselves?
The terror. So
the terror of possibility, even like just the...
It's stumbling upon a creature that you know that you cannot fight, and you are going to get eaten and die. Right. And this is different from a movie where you are not the character, because in a game you've invested so many hours of gameplay.
Yeah.
You've maybe something as simple as your spawn point to get to this point where you meet the monster is so far away. You've invested the time to get there. Basically, you are invested in what's going to happen. You are going to lose things that you have collected. But that sense of stumbling on a foe, and in the case of Horizon Zero Dawn, because it's very much predator and prey, it's the fight or flight feeling of, oh my god, I turn the corner and there's a creature that is going to kill me. Just as if you were going for a nice leisurely walk in the African savannah and you look over and there's a lion just staring at you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that kind of feeling that games can give you that movies can't, because you're outside of the movie. When you're in the game, and it can be any type of game. It can be a Horizon Zero Dawn. It could be a pure horror game. It could be a Gears of War type of thing.
Yeah.
But when you turn the corner and you're presented with something that gives you that fight or flight response, that's what I love that games can do that I don't know that other...
I was impressed that they made you save at campfires and stuff, and they didn't do the kind of Skyrim thing of just allowing you to save anywhere, where in a lot of open world games they would just allow you to do that.
Skyrim's another example, though, of, I think everyone who played Skyrim had that effect in the early going, when suddenly there's a dragon flying above. Yeah. And you
or
feel
a giant even, just like
right?
No, the first time you tangled a giant.
Right?
Yeah.
That sense of like, I'm not going near those things.
Yeah.
So it actually creates in your mind areas where you can't actually go to play in the game. And because they've instilled fear in you.
I had a problem with Skyrim. So Skyrim is my favourite single player game of all time.
Really?
For a variety of reasons. But there was a point when I was first playing through it that I accidentally found a point in the game where dragons can't spawn.
Really?
There's a point in the storyline where dragons will not spawn until you complete the next mission in that chain. And if you don't, you have...
Is it in the main chain?
Yes. And you have free roam to go all over it. It's very early in the game. So very early in the game when you find out you are the Dragonborn. Cool. Go talk to the guys at the top of High Hrothgar.
Yeah.
You go all the way up. The guys talk to you and they go, cool, we're going to teach you how to do the shout.
Yeah.
They teach you how to do the shouts and like, cool, go find the horn of Jurgen Windcaller.
Yeah.
Cool. You go into the dungeon, you get all the way through, and when you get to where the horn should be, there's a note that says, meet me at such and such a place.
Uh-huh.
If you don't go and meet that person, dragons will not spawn anymore.
In the game, anywhere?
The only places they can be are at the dragon shrines where they're specifically meant to be, where they're sitting on top of a wall.
Yeah.
But the random spawns in
You're not
all the
gonna see them.
locations do not spawn, which means, and it's actually, on any further playthroughs I've done of the game, because I've played through that game 3 times now, any further playthroughs I've done, I get to that point in the storyline and then I go and do everything else, because it means that you cannot go into a town and have it be randomly attacked by a dragon and 2 or 3 of the quest givers get killed.
Mm.
It's actually a thing that can happen, because if the quest giver gets killed, you have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a hierarchy within the game that you don't see, where if someone's killed, that same quest will be given to you by someone else. And it defers down 2 or 3 spots.
I always assume it's a cousin of the person who got
Yeah,
killed.
it basically defers down. But if with a dragon attack, if enough people get killed, that quest is just gone.
But that's what I love about the game, is that feeling of like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh
Yeah.
fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I get that. But like when I'm doing like playthroughs, like second, third playthrough, it's like cool. But I had accidentally found that point, and I was like, "This is weird."
That's a lot of Skyrim.
I think I've clocked maybe 400 hours on it, 450 hours, and I'll probably do another playthrough of it soon. It's something that I do on a regular enough basis. It's for big reasons I won't go into here. Like, it is a very special game to me. Like, so.
But that's why I like the games can do that movies and film can't, because when you're movies and film, you are always going to be outside of
Because in movie and film, we're telling you this character's story. And it might be author insert fantasy hero or whatever, but when you're playing, it's why a lot of games have the whole bit at the start where they go, design what your character looks like, and then you never see your character. The process of getting someone to design their character before they start gets them invested before anything's happened.
I will make one exception though, and actually, because I wanted to bring this up when we were talking about TV horror, because I was looking for things that like aren't obviously horror. The most scared I've been recently watching TV was Breaking Bad, the famous Ozymandias episode when, spoiler alert, they are like they're wrestling with the knife on the floor of the house, and the family's there, and in the same way you invest in a game, I've invested years watching these characters.
Yeah.
And I have no idea, and I care about them all.
And you have no idea which one you want.
And I have no idea what's going to happen, and I was just in a state of emotional
distress.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can happen.
And that in a sense was because I had invested all that time. So maybe that's a way that TV can do that where movies can't, right? Movies, you're there for 2 hours. Unless you're talking about a franchise like Ripley, I've invested in Ellen Ripley.
Yeah.
So the end of Alien 3 has more impact.
But even then,
like,
I don't think it'll have the same level of impact.
No, but in terms of like that fright of like, oh my god.
I think I've said it before on the podcast. Anime does that to me. When we're growing up watching anime, and there's all these characters, and they're just going to kill one. And I didn't grow up with TV shows that did that. They would just kill a character.
Wow.
So they would spend a whole episode with the character so they could kill him. And when it happened,
is that something they do?
Yeah, I just remember
I'm not a huge anime fan.
Even things like Full Metal Alchemist and stuff, they would have characters in it. And there was a guy who kept showing people pictures of his daughter, and it didn't click with me what was happening. And he's like, I love her so much. I was like, hey, that guy likes his daughter. He seems like a fun guy. And when they finally killed him, I was on my knees going, no! What the fuck? He's got a daughter!
The worst one is the dog.
Yes.
The worst one is like that is straight up
in Full Metal Alchemist.
Mentally scarring in Full Metal Alchemist. With the dog.
They kill a dog?
No.
They do something worse.
Yeah.
They do something worse to the dog?
We'll talk about it in the TV section.
Oh, sorry, are we still in the game? Alright, what about your
game? So, I know this is a long one, but it's fine. It's a Halloween special. So, interesting
you can't play horror games. You told me this once.
No.
Is that true?
No.
Somebody told me they can't play horror games because they find
they're too intense.
It's too intense. So what they do is, if they need to get through a particularly intense section, they pretend they're Steve Irwin.
No, that's the thing. I recommend it to my housemate can't play horror games, and I said to him, "I said, pretend you're playing as Steve Irwin." It was something I saw on like a Tumblr post, and it was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get down to the basement and wrestle me a big zombie, mate," and it's like it just takes all the horror out of the game.
Once you look down a corridor and you see a monster with 4 arms coming at you, this guy's got all sorts of arms. Look at this guy.
He's a big one, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a big fella.
It's a coping mechanism.
Like narrated to himself?
You have to, and then you can't be scared.
Yeah.
So the main one I want to talk about was I'll get to in a second, but there's 2 I want to quickly talk about. One is Doki-Doki Literature Club.
What's this?
Doki-Doki Literature Club.
TV show?
No, this is a game.
Okay.
Right?
I'm guessing Japanese.
It's meant to be, but it's not.
Okay.
Really?
So it's on Steam. It's free.
What year?
It came out like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Oh, really?
And I don't want to say anything else about it other than what happens in the first 2 minutes. You are a new girl at a Japanese schoolgirl at a school. And
it's already terrifying.
There's a literature club that you join where everyone like writes poems and everyone gives feedback and all the rest. Mm-hmm. This game fucked with me on a level that I have never encountered in other games. Right? Yeah. There came a point where to continue in the game, I had to tab out of the game and do something with the folder structure and the files of the game to continue in the game.
That feels like it's in the
like it doesn't fuck with you. It's not fucking with the character. It's fucking with you, the player.
Yeah.
There's a point
where
a little
meta.
Beyond it. Like it's just I don't want to spoil anything else.
Is it meant to
yes. Okay. There's a warning at the start that says you should not be played by young children or people who are easily disturbed.
So
really?
That's what.
And it's called the Doki-Doki Literature Club.
Yes, and all the screenshots on Steam, you know, they have the little screenshot gallery. They're all of like the first 2 minutes where everything's great and everything's awesome.
That's so good.
It gets so fucked up so quickly, and it's a phenomenal game.
So in order to talk about that game where they fuck with you a little bit, let's quickly do Eternal Darkness, which is the game on the GameCube that came out years and years ago.
Yeah, it was one of the launch titles for the GameCube.
Yeah.
It was made by Silicon Knights. And the whole point of the game is that your name is Alexa Royce, I want to say.
Wow.
Right.
And you inherit a house from your uncle. And you go out to the house, and he was a famed archaeologist and historian and all the rest. And you go out to the house, and all you know is he died under mysterious circumstances. You don't know what happened. Mm. And as you're going in the house, you find there's a big library wing, because this guy is like a world-famous published author and all the rest. And you're going through and you find a book, and it's the Book of Eternal Darkness. And when you open it, you start reading it. And
paperback or hardback?
Hardback. Kind of has a very...
Tommy?
It's got a very kind of Necronomicon Ex Mortis thing going, right? So you... but each section of the game is a different period of time.
Cool.
Going back 2,000-3,000 years. And you're reading the chapters of the book and playing the chapters.
Yeah.
As it's telling you. But... when it starts, the first thing you play as a Roman legionnaire, and you come across a temple of the old gods. It's full Cthulhu mythos, right?
That's awesome.
A temple of the old gods, and you choose to side with one of the 3, and there's like a rock paper scissors thing on them. And then when you're playing through the game across the different eras, you find out that legionnaire is the bad guy, and he's trying to open the portal to bring one of the old gods into our world. So you're fighting against his minions all the way through. And there's a sanity meter. So when you walk into a room and you see something, the very first thing that happens is you will lose sanity, because you are a regular person, and this is a 19-foot tall, 4-legged, 27-eyed behemoth coming at you. Right? So your character will be like, no, what the fuck is happening? You'll hear them scream out, right? And you'll lose a bit of sanity. The more sanity you lose, and you regain it by executing the enemy. You can run past them, but if you actually take them apart and then perform an execution move, you regain the sanity. And because it's the whole thing of, I can defeat it.
Yes.
It
just doesn't have to exist.
It's conquering
fears. Yeah.
Exactly. But as you progress and as you lose more sanity, the game starts to fuck with you, to the point where you'll be running along, and you go into a room and there's ammo everywhere on the floor. And you're like, awesome! You start picking it all up, and as you pick up the second last box, the game will flash, and your character's standing outside the room. They haven't walked into it yet, and they start crying, and they're like, "What the fuck is happening to me?"
Whoa.
Right? Or you walk into a room and you run along and your head falls off.
Yes.
And your character just keeps
running.
Or
yes.
there's bits where you run into a room, you do something, you leave, and you go back in and it's a different room.
Yeah.
And you've been moved to another part of the map, and something slightly weird happened. But my 2 favourite ones is like an insect will crawl across the screen, but it will look like it is an insect crawling across the screen on your television.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay. Or one time I was doing it and the volume just started going down, like the volume
as
bar
if you were
appeared.
sitting on the remote.
Yeah, and it started going down, and I started looking around and realised I was playing it on a projector and it doesn't have a volume meter, but the game went silent, and it just decided that this would be a fun time with my low sanity to turn off the sound.
There's a point where you go in, you go to save the game. It says, do you wish to save the game? Yes. Do you wish to overwrite? Yes. And it comes up, deleting saved game. And then it blanks the save game, and you're like, what the fuck? And then it flashes and it hasn't deleted the save game. There's a point where you're playing and it was only on the GameCube, and the screen will blip for a second as if you'd hit the reset button, and then you get the GameCube logo dropping down and spinning around. As if
so this is like a genre of like mess with you games.
Yeah.
But it's all one game. It's just this.
But like this and
Doki-Doki, yeah. But Eternal Darkness was like, it also had a full thing, and you only got the full ending by completing the game 3 times. Once as each of one of the goals.
Rock, paper, scissors.
And you have to complete as each as rock, paper, scissors, and then there's the full Cthulhu thing of, there is a hidden city underneath the house you're in and everything.
I want to play this game.
But it's really good. It's only on GameCube.
But if you have a Wii, you can get it and play it on the Wii.
Yes, you can get it on the Wii. It's on the store. Like. So one of the other ones I want to quickly say is Spec Ops the Line. Not a traditional horror game.
Can I'd request that you say that for another episode. I think we could do a whole episode on Spec Ops the Line, but do you want to do a quick?
I can do a quick thing. Yeah. So it is a game where you are sent in. So the city of Dubai is basically taken out by a sandstorm, and there's aid sent in, and then they go rogue. You don't hear from them anymore, and it's kind of Heart of Darkness, Apocalypse Now style.
100% Heart of Darkness.
Yeah, but when you go in, you are repeatedly presented with 2 situations, with 2 options, or 3 options, and none of them have a good outcome. The creators of the game have said that a legitimate way to complete the game is to stop playing.
Put the controller down
and just stop playing.
Just don't do anything else.
Yeah, because it is not meant to be about the glorification of war. Though it seems like it as a first-person shooter, and it's very kind of Call of Duty, and you're like, yeah, it's all about this is the reality of war, and this is how horrific war can be, and please do not glorify this. It is a complete aberration in gaming in that sense.
Is it full of stuff like the Russian airport Modern Warfare stuff?
So I'll spoil one bit of it to do that, but it is like the old boy of games.
Oh, wow.
It's the kind of thing where I love it so much, but I don't know if I can recommend it to people. Where I'm like, it's one of the best things ever, but it's. But there's a bit in it where there's a mob shouting at you, and you don't speak their language, and they're if you don't do anything, they'll start throwing rocks, and you start losing health, and you got to get past them, and you got a gun, and how do you solve problems in a first-person shooter? You shoot, and I was doing this, and I eventually. I knew my friend had played it as well, and I was saying to him, I was like, it was tough, and he was like, yeah man, just had to open fire, killed a bunch of people. I was like, man, I shot in the air.
Yeah.
And they run away. And he was like, what? And I was like, you shoot in the air. He's like, I fucking murdered them. And I was like, I'm sorry man, like you got a gun. I was like,
and he felt bad about murdering.
Yeah,
like that's like, the type of game it is. It will get in your head.
He was like, that's the only thing I can do here. And I was like, no man, you just fire a couple of rounds in the air, let them disperse.
And there's a thing about it. I think it's so effective as a horror game, even though it's not billed as a horror game, and I don't think it'd ever be classed as a horror game. To me, it feels like a horror game because it's everything in it is real world.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Everything in it is 100% plausible. There is no supernatural. There is no, we have to make the leap here. This is 100%. This could happen right now. Mm-hmm. This could be happening right now. The main game I just want to talk about very quickly is Outlast. So Outlast is a first-person game, and it is not a shooter unless you talk about shooting film. It is It's a game where you're an investigative reporter, and you receive a letter saying that there's such and such an asylum. There's some very weird shit going on there.
I have played some of this.
Yeah, and you have the camera for night vision, and if you encounter a bad guy, you have to run and you have to hide.
Yeah.
That game is
that was spooky.
It is an incredibly well crafted piece of horror.
It's really good. Yeah.
There's a fantastic video series online. I can't remember the name of the guys who did it, but 2 guys decided to play it together, and one guy is the keyboard and the other guy is the mouse. But the guy who's the mouse has an Oculus Rift, because if you look around with the Oculus Rift, it behaves like a mouse.
Okay.
So one guy, his full VR headset playing this game, and the guy who actually has to get him to run and stuff is not, but he can see a monitor. And watching 2 grown men in a complete panic trying to play that game is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
One of the cool things, I want to say it was a sometime in the last year it was a freebie on either PSN or Xbox, but like it's not like here's your gun, here's your whatever. Like you are a journalist.
Yeah, it's you have a camera, and then like
Yeah.
you can only see the power's gone in the majority of the complex, and you can only see via ambient light or your night vision on your camera.
Yeah.
But the night vision on the camera uses batteries, so rather than collecting ammo, you collect batteries.
Collect batteries, yeah.
And it's just a great game.
Did you finish it?
I did. I finished the first one. I started playing the second one. I lost interest because the second one's outdoors. It's in the countryside. It doesn't have the same kind because claustrophobia is a big part of that game.
Yeah.
Having guys searching 2 feet away from you in a room that's only 10 foot by 10 foot, and they can't see you because it's in the pitch black, but you can see them because of the camera. Like that's where the tension comes from. That's where it's one of those games where you just feel so uncomfortable, and it actually it can have jump scares, but it also has the looming horror because you can pull the camera up and you can be watching someone and they're looking around for you and they get right up to you and just miss you, and it's that whole, oh god, this is so fucking tense.
We should have probably talked about Silence of the Lambs while we were doing.
I was thinking about that. I was like,
it's why I kind of come back to it in my TV series. I'll start with TV series, just get them done quickly.
Well, I'll do one more story. We were saying about the games that mess with you. There's a Silent Hill game called Shattered Memories.
Oh yeah.
I'd love to give a shout out just to the warning message that appears at the start of Silent Hill games, where like elements of this game could be considered cruel or gruesome. Like it's this, once you read it, like I think cruel. I know what I'm in for.
Yeah.
But Shattered Memories is like, this game psychologically profiles you, so don't, like, it's going to freak you out. That's the whole thing. So you start playing. It's on the Wii, which means that when you play it, you have to hold the controller, the Wii controller, and that's your torch. And you, in any other game, it's so powerful because you can't really hold your hand 100% still. So if you're walking through like a garage or something and you see something, you look around, your hand has a little bit of motion, which means all the shadows move a little bit, and nothing is ever completely still. But what it does is, anything you look at gets points. And I actually was talking to somebody who did a QA on this, did the QA pass on this game, so I have a little bit of kind of background knowledge of it, but they were saying that like, if you're walking through a garage, there'll be like a girly poster on the wall, and there'll be some beer cans in the corner, and there'll be a security camera. And if you look at the girly poster for like a couple of seconds, you get points towards sexual. If you look at the beer cans, you get points towards alcoholic.
Whoa.
And if you look at the security camera, you get points towards paranoia.
Yeah.
And they've got all these little things. And then throughout the game, stuff changes. And there's places where it's really obvious you're making decisions. But something as simple as, if you're like exploring a place and you're a male character, you go into the female bathroom, you get a couple of weird points towards sexual.
That's like the very first stage of evolution of our TVs watching us and our games watching us. Yeah. That's amazing.
But it changes the game to fuck with you a little bit.
It's a Silent Hill game.
It's a Silent Hill game. So there's like mannequins in shop windows, and if it seems like you've got a fear of disease, the mannequins will start looking a little bit more fleshy and weird.
Wow.
If you've got a sexual thing, like there's they call it sexual deviancy, the mannequins will start wearing sexier outfits. And there's a cop in it, and every time you talk to her, if you stare at her chest, because again, everything is this, the next time you talk to her, she'll have undone a button. And then you'll stare at her chest, and the next time you meet her, she'll have undone another button, and her shirt starts opening. And if you get it, like if you spend too much time with her, and you spend too much time looking at her chest, she dies. If you don't do that, if you never like give her the time of day, she's fine, she lasts till the end. But if they're like, oh, he likes her.
This game brought to you by the Catholic Church.
Exactly. But I was saying it to some of my friends, and to this guy who'd worked on the game, and he was saying, yeah, like if you're, like, while your psychologist is talking to you, there's shit in his office that you can just look at, and you get points towards everything. And he says, we start switching it, so there's a bar about halfway through the game that's like this big red sports bar, and it looks horrible. But if you've got high points towards alcoholism, it becomes this big green Irish bar, because green is a lot more inviting. And green is like the good colour in this game that you go towards. And there's all Budweiser cans, or they're kind of supposed to be Budweiser cans. But if you get high points in alcoholism, they all switch to Heineken, which is green. And you start,
a better brand of beer.
And a better beer. Yeah.
So this is it. And I was saying to him, of course. And I was like, at the very start with the kids' playground, it's all Heineken cans. And he's like, wait, you got green cans that early in the game? I was like, yeah. And he's like, you must have gotten 100 fucking alcoholic points in the first level. And I was like, probably, yeah. Like, every time I saw anything to do with alcohol, I was like, ooh. Like, is that Smirnoff? Like, I was checking everything out. It was like, you fucking alcohol.
I like Heineken cans on the playground.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
He was like, you should not have been able to get green cans that early in the game. Like, that is astounding.
Was that a Wii exclusive?
I think so, right?
Yeah, if it isn't, you should play it on the Wii. But they towards the end of the game, you can get points towards laziness and apathy as well. And there's a bit where you're thrown in like icy water and you got to swim towards a lighthouse, and monsters are chasing you. And again, if you were into disease, it's these diseased hands crawling after you. If you got sexual deviancy points, it's the mannequins in like garters and stockings, but they're cutting into the flesh, and it's like
Jesus.
Their wounds look like the graffiti changes on the walls. If you're paranoid, it says they're always watching you. But if you get too high apathy points, you just drown. Like they don't let you finish the game. They're like,
wow.
No, you haven't been like
Playing
you've been skipping shit. You've been ignoring stuff. There's a bit where
are you supposed to just intuit that?
No, but there's a bit where like there's a bit where you meet a girl and you sort of bring her back to her apartment, and at one point the Wii controller just rings like a phone, and you go fuck, and it says press A to answer, and you click, and there's a speaker on the controller, so you put it to your ear, and she goes hi, and she's like what? She goes I took some pills, and you're like oh fuck what? And she's like I took some pills and I don't think I'm okay. And you're like I left you like half an hour ago, and you're like fuck, so you got to go back, because of course you go back, like and you're like fuck. I've gone through an area with monsters and shit, and you're like, oh, so now I gotta run back 10 minutes to make sure she's okay, and she's not there when you get there. But you can just skip that. Like, you can just go forward and go, sucks to be you, and then you get apathy points.
Yeah.
So there are decisions you make.
Can you see your different...
You never know.
Wow.
TV shows.
TV shows. So I was first looking at the likes of Masters of Horror, but that's like, it's an anthology series, and... So there's not real one cohesive style to it. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's they have like John Carpenter did some episodes, Toby Hooper, Dario Argento, John Landis. They got all the major horror directors in and got them all to do. They basically gave them like here's an hour episode, here's 2 hours, or here's whatever, and just let them do whatever they want.
There's a very famous episode where the guy finds a girl in a white dress eating another man, and I guess she's a succubus or something. It's not explained. But he's just obsessed with her, and he brings her home and like puts her in the shed and just keeps this monster woman around.
There's a lot of fucked up stuff in it.
Yeah,
it's just if you're really into your horror and you haven't seen it, you're doing yourself a disservice not watching it, because it's just a really, really good anthology, and it's like each one of them is essentially it's a smaller film by each of these directors, but they all they're like, yeah, we'll get yourself to work on it, and they all came with their own scripts, and because it was kind of like, do you have a script that you want to do that isn't big enough for a film, or you don't think it needs a big budget, and the thing was, they're like, we're not going to stop you doing anything, do whatever you want.
So I used to watch everything from In the Night Gallery up to The Twilight Zone, up to The Outer Limits, up to Masters of Holly, and Night Gallery was black and white, like old, hosted by Rod Serling, kind of, every episode was a little vignette kind of thing. And from the very earliest ones, they would do one comedy one every so often. They would always do this kind of...
Like funny, scary?
Yeah, they do a schlocky one. And I love that that's come all the way through. And in the Masters of Horror series, there are a couple... There's one where I think people are turning into bees or something, where they just do a really schlocky one. And I'm so happy when I read... Like, halfway through the episode, I was like, oh my god, they're going to just...
I wonder as well if that's just like the directors who are normally known for their super serious work, and every time they want to do something a bit crazy, and then the studios are like, that's not really your style, though. That's not really what you're known for. Whereas like with the Masters of Horror, they're like, do what you want.
Yeah.
It's they're just happy to have Carpenter on board, or John Landis doing something. Like the main TV series though, like I'm not going to go near what I know you're going to talk about. And I was considering talking about how True Detective. I like True Detective season 1 in that season 2 is a whole different type of horror. Season 1 though is like, what I like is that it
daily life in Los Angeles.
Like season 1 kind of constantly alludes to this. It's almost verging on supernatural, and is there something bigger?
Almost Lovecraftian.
The Carcosa thing. When the fact that it's not. And I like that about it, but no, the main one I was going to maybe talk about Supernatural, like one of my favorites, but which is taken, while the visual horror has left a lot of the series, like season 1 through 3 had a lot of visual horror in it, and they've kind of left that behind, but they have torturing their main characters down to an art form. But no, the main one I want to talk about was Hannibal.
Oh, actually, it was Hannibal.
So like
You stole mine.
Oh really? Because I skipped Twin Peaks, so I figured that'd be here.
I can't do Silent Hill and Twin Peaks in the same episode.
From the original executive producer of Star Trek Discovery, but we don't have to go there.
Yes, Hannibal, okay, obviously has a phenomenal cast. I could watch Mads Mikkelsen in anything.
I'm enjoying the Mads
Or Hugh
Mikkelsen's
Dancy, like.
Carlsberg ads that we don't get in the States. He does these ads for Carlsberg.
I have to look them up because like I don't have TV channels. I watch everything online or in the cinema or box
Such
sets.
a millennial.
I don't know. It costs more money.
So-
You can't see, but Glennon's
Anyway.
eating 2 avocados right now, just like an apple.
Yeah.
He's been on Snapchat the entire. Okay.
He's periscoping this whole broadcast.
But yeah, the like.
God, I hope not.
So you like Hugh Dancy, Lawrence Fishburne, Mads Mikkelsen, all great actors.
Gillian Anderson.
Gillian Anderson.
Yeah, Gillian. No, but even but they're kind of like the 3 main.
Oh yeah.
Core of the show.
Yeah.
And then you have all the, like a fantastic supporting cast, and the one thing I like about it is that, well, the color palette, the style, the visual style to the whole thing is done in such a way that when the food is presented, and it's very extravagant food, and it's almost art every time it's presented, that they've managed to find the point where half the audience is going to go, that looks delicious.
Yep.
And the other half are going to go, oh God, I couldn't eat that.
Yeah.
And like they've also, in a weird way, they've done that with the very disturbing scenes that they show, where people watch it and they're fascinated by it. It's not off-putting, it's fascinating. It's like, because again, it's posed like art.
Yeah.
But it's
so stylized.
yeah, like I mean, there was only 2 parts in the entire first 2 seasons, where the third season goes a bit mental, but like the first season, actually, yeah, both parts in the first season where I had to stop and like I had to pause it and I had to take a minute because I was like, that's so fucked up. Was the one with the angels, in season 1, and then the first time you see the totem pole, and I was just like, that's but but it's, I think it's just it's a testament to how well the show is made, in that I know people who are, you know, like who wouldn't watch horror, who are really squeamish and just adore that series because it's there, and it is very much it is horror through and through.
Well, and I think it combines horror and terror in
Yeah,
your definition in a really great way.
It really does, and it nearly brings in a new element of like there's the seen and the unseen, but there's, because they talk about mental illness and they have all these weird dream sequences. It's kind of the stuff that's seen but not actually there. Like it's another part of it that I'm terrified, but I know that this is not real for the character. Yeah. But it's still meaningful.
It's still unsettling.
Yes, it's so unsettling.
Yeah, and
like saying it's just a dream does not. Yeah.
And I think part of it, I think it's one of those ones where, I think if you had gone into that series and you hadn't seen Silence of the Lambs or Red Dragon or any of those, you'd have a different reaction. But because everyone knows who Hannibal Lecter is and is so familiar with the character, and that there's almost a morbid fascination. Yes. You want to know what he's going to do. So, and I think that kind of puts a weird perspective on it. I think that, and obviously it works in its favour, but I'd be interested to find someone who was willing to watch it, who had never seen any of the Silence of the Lambs stuff. Yeah. And actually see what their reaction to the characters were.
I used to watch a lot of like CSI and Bones and stuff like that. But I could come home, cook dinner, sit in front of it and eat dinner, watch it, and like people doing an autopsy or something like that, and I'd be like, this is fine. Like, this is a procedural thing. There's something about the Hannibal show I could like.
Was it the cuisine aspect?
No, I just couldn't. I couldn't eat watching or anything like that because it's so terrible and horrible. But like, there's the episode where there's a guy who they've been keeping people barely alive while mushrooms were on them.
The mushroom episode, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just so terrifying, and it's
Star Trek Discovery. Sorry.
Yeah, it's there's a very Lovecraftian thing of like seeing the result of something horrible, but then like going back in your mind and thinking of what must have led up to that, and like, oh God, he's been there for this long, and that kind of thing. Whereas when I'm watching CSI, like dead body, it's a clue. Like this guy, I'm like dead body. That person suffered, and they do that so well in Hannibal
because it's the focus isn't on the victims. In a weird way, CSI is not about the victims. It's all about the methodology. Yes. Despite how bastardized and corrupted it's been, to the point where it's having a detrimental impact on the justice system. Yes. But it's
I think that suffering of the victims goes back to what makes Thomas Harris's books effective. I think that goes back to the source material. Is they're real people, right? Yes. So, and I know we're off the movies, but Silence of the Lambs does that perfectly. It's about you feel like you knew those victims, and obviously you follow one who may or may not become a victim. One of the things I wanted to say about Hannibal though was I think it shows the influence of the growth of cable television, because Hannibal in the States was a network TV show, and in the States, the big 4 channels.
The States Coast, it had a laugh track on it as well. It's very different than ours.
It's considered one of the greatest comedies of all time. It's basically like Seinfeld, Cheers, and Hannibal. But as people probably know, in the U.S. on broadcast TV, you can't really get away with a whole lot. But they were seeing viewers. The broadcast networks were seeing viewers flock to cable because you can just do more on cable, and they I think let Hannibal go farther than maybe it would have 10 or 15 years before.
Yeah, absolutely.
The show that I want to bring up, it's obviously for horror, but another one that I think pushed the limits was the X-Files.
Oh yeah.
And
you stole my backup.
That's
great.
You're gonna have to talk about it.
But we gotta talk about the what might be my favorite X-Files episode is Home, which is the War of Northern Aggression.
That is one of the most grim things I've ever seen on TV. Like
the incestuous family on the farm.
What are they? The Partridge family? Or what are they called?
I can't remember the name of the family, but
it might be the Partridges or something like that. It's a bird name anyway.
Yeah.
It sort of came out of nowhere. I mean, we knew the X-Files had spooky stuff, right?
Yeah.
But this had a level of depravity to it
so
that
you were saying,
you hadn't really seen.
You were saying about what can be shown on television. That opens with somebody finding a dead baby while they're digging or something like that. And they were saying that like they shot it and everything. They did not know if they were going to get away with it. Yeah. And they got like notes back saying you can't do blood, you can't do this. But whoever had watched the episode was like, it's fine, you can show a dead baby, you can do an autopsy on a dead baby. It's like, we're going to take away a couple elements. But they were like, this is a strong ass episode. Like they apparently sent it off and they did the longest time before anything came back.
That was opening of season 3, I want to say.
Was it?
And
season 3,
and it was like within the first 3 episodes of season 3. And season 3 was when they really started to amp stuff up. Season 3 also had the episode Grotesque, where there was the guy who was basically killing people, putting their bodies in, like cutting off their arms and basically making a torso and head, making a bust, and then using that as a model for a gargoyle. And there was a repeated thing that like
that reminds me of another show that I hadn't thought about bringing up until now. But the creator of the show has gone on to create American Horror Story. But before that, years before, he created Nip Tuck. I don't know if you guys have seen Nip Tuck, but Nip Tuck Nip Tuck is about a pair of plastic surgeons in Miami. But there's a lot of body horror in it. It gets to the essential like creepiness of plastic surgery as alteration and being caused by maybe some psychological issues. I'm not saying everybody who gets plastic surgery, but I'm saying there's that element to it.
Yeah.
And he had a serial killer plot line that was straight up horror. It was the serial. Do you remember this? It was like a serial killer. He had like a mask and everything. Yeah, that was another show. But again, that was cable. That was that was FX. So that was cable. Yeah, that was cable.
Yeah, it's.
So you're seeing the boundaries being pushed farther.
But I think even like on the likes of Netflix, where they're just kind of letting them do what they want as well, which is kind of interesting too.
Is anybody going to bring up what's your show?
My show was going to be Hannibal and then X-Files, and I think at this stage it's Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Okay. It's okay to talk about Twin Peaks.
Then we got to talk about Black Mirror.
Yeah, we'll do Black Mirror. Actually, for mine, I was going to do. I grew up watching all of the Stephen King miniseries. Yeah. So I like the original It from 1990.
Yeah.
Was a miniseries. It was
TV
Tim Curry.
And I used to watch things like Rose Red and things like that.
The Tommyknockers.
Tommyknockers, and they were these
with Jimmy Smith.
Yeah,
love the Tommyknockers.
But it meant that I was watching all these TV movies that were like 4 hours long and stuff because I never saw them. I don't even know if they were broadcast or how they were broadcast.
They were broadcast on TV, so it was in Europe. I don't know about over in America, but in Europe, it was they'd be done in 2 parts, and it'd usually be a Thursday, Friday night.
Yeah, they do it over a few nights. It was a big event.
Yeah.
So I remember like with having the Sky TV channels, like, and we said the basics like Sky News and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it was over here, the way it worked was that you could get, some people would just have RTE1, RTE2, and then some people would have RTE1, RTE2, BBC1, BBC2, UTV Channel 4, and they'd be the 6 channels they'd have. And then if you had the slight upgrade to that, you pay the extra 30 quid a month, and you got like Sky 1, Sky News, the kids channel, that type of thing, MTV and stuff like that. And then there was the full package where you paid a stupid amount of money a month and you got all the films. But the Sky TV, but like Sky's owned by Fox as far as I remember, so it's it might have been Channel Fox in the States or FX, or whatever one is the Fox cable brand network.
So to me, the TV shows that I kind of want to talk about aren't the long running ones. I love X-Files. I love Supernatural. I love all these. I actually really love American Horror Story, or at least 3 seasons worth of it. Some of them are dog shit. But I like the event ones. I like the things that like something's going to be on TV and it's a big event, and like it's like a movie coming out, but TV is where you're going to watch it. Like you're inviting.
That's what those 2-parters were. You're
inviting it into your home. It's where you're safe.
Look at Stranger Things.
Yeah, I mean, we should talk about Stranger Things, or we'll do that in the next episode. But there was a British TV show on BBC Two in 1992 called Ghost Watch. And I watched this about 5 years ago. I took me the longest ass time to find it and download it, and like it was a download that lasted days. Like it was one person had it on some torrent site, and I genuinely, this is going to sound like a fever dream. This is going to sound like something that doesn't exist. But the idea was, it was 2 little girls had somewhere in Britain. It was done as a documentary, had developed psychic powers, and for a Halloween sort of extravaganza, they were going to go and film them and try and get like live footage of ghosts and live footage of supernatural things, and they were doing it as nearly as a jokey kind of thing of like kind of, oh, you know, this is who was in it? Michael Parkinson was in studio, and Craig Charles was the man on the ground. So Craig Charles was going around interviewing people in the town, and they were, you know, knocking stuff over my back, but the whole point was that it was live. And, you know, it was, we're going to, you know, we might catch a ghost or we might not.
Was it a limited series?
It was once off. So this, it was a complete once off, right? But
what year?
1992. And they did it like it was a sports event or something like that. Again, it was, you know, firing over back to them on the ground. And these girls were saying that they could, you know, talk to ghosts, and it was a running thing.
It's called Ghost Watch?
Ghost Watch. But what they hadn't said to people was, this was something they filmed beforehand and had put in a bunch of freaky shit in it, and then pretended it was live. So as you're watching it, they're going around the town and everyone's talking about this killer who used to live in the town, and he had fucked up eye and he was doing all this. And then they started putting people with fucked up eyes into crowd scenes, so that you didn't really notice it. But and then about halfway through, they discovered that the girls were faking it, and they're like, oh, you know, it's kind of shitty and that thing. And then really fucked up stuff starts happening in the town.
Yeah, there's a misdirect.
Wait, so this is like War of the Worlds, War of the Worlds?
And I was watching this, and I knew all this, I'd known all the backstory, and I was watching it getting chills, because as, like, Craig Charles is a funny dude, and when they find out it's fake, he's kind of like vamping and like, we still got to fill some time. So he keeps talking to the people in the crowd and all this kind of stuff. And then, like, one of the girls screams in the house, and they have to run back in, and they're doing all this stuff. And like they keep cutting between cameras, but between cameras stuff's moving and you're not noticing, and like a chair's missing and now it's back, and they keep doing this stuff. There's a really, really weird bit where they're kind of cutting between stuff, but they're just like it's the weird thing is the familiarity of it. Like, you know who Craig Charles is, you know who Michael Parkinson is, so that when they start getting a little bit corrupted and when they start doing some weird stuff, there's a bit where Michael Parkinson just under his breath starts doing a weird little nursery rhyme that one of the girls was doing earlier. And like looks like he doesn't know why he's doing it, and it's in the studio, and it cuts back to Craig Charles, who's like in a place he couldn't have gotten to that quick or something, and it just starts fucking with you. And after 40 minutes of this is just a silly TV show, they try to do an all out like this was proper follow the house.
Was it advertised as a real thing?
It was advertised as a real thing, and
Blair Witch
they got phone calls.
Yeah.
Blair Witch did that. I remember like the majority of the budget for Blair Witch, because it was like in the days before the internet really took off and you could kind of do it. I remember there being a documentary on Sky. No, the documentary that was shown on Sky here, maybe 2 weeks before Blair Witch came out, talking about the original history about the Blair Witch. Even though the Blair Witch had been created for the film, they had faked all these old historical documents and all the rest, and it was just to reinforce the.
By the way, I can't believe we went through the movie section without talking about Poltergeist. Anyway.
Yeah.
Go watch Poltergeist for Halloween, everyone.
Before we move off Ghost Watch, it was recorded weeks in advance and was presented as live television. It's never been repeated. They did repeat it internationally, but they never showed it again. And while it was online for I think it was a 2-hour show, in the second hour, they got 30,000 calls to the BBC switchboard while it was on. Because obviously this was a live thing, and clearly people started noticing things. And like started freaking out, and like I was like, is Michael Parkinson okay? They got 30,000 calls in the last hour, of that show.
You guys ever called a TV station?
No.
Just wondering what that's like. It's like, I have to call the broadcaster.
Long time watcher, first time call?
Yeah.
No, I've never done that. No.
Yeah.
What about yourself? Like, what TV shows?
Every time I watch television, I just make a courtesy call to the broadcaster.
Oh,
No matter what it is.
Keep up the good work.
It's a Futurama rerun.
I really
I
liked
love
what
that
you did
part.
4 years
yeah,
ago. Thanks.
Yeah, I just feel like it's interactive that way.
TV series though? What horror?
We did X-Files.
X-Files for me, man.
Just
but I
X-Files.
wanted to touch on
X-Files.
just going beyond sort of what you think of as horror in terms of fright and anxiety was for me was that Breaking Bad scene.
Yeah.
You know, where you are, where what you are watching is producing not just an emotional but almost a physiological response in you, right? Where like my palms are sweating.
Like there's I suppose it's a recent one that's just come out is the new Fincher series Mindhunter. Which is on Netflix. Now I'm not going to spoil it. I normally will talk about stuff, but just because it's so recent, people might not have seen it.
How many episodes is it?
10.
They dump them all.
Yeah, all in one shot.
Fincher directed.
Fincher directed
The
the whole
first
thing.
one?
The whole thing.
Fincher directed all 10 episodes.
All 10 episodes.
Oh my gosh.
One of the main
I watched
characters in it was actually is Holt McCallany, who's in Alien 3.
Yep.
He's one of the guys in Alien 3. He's also the mechanic in Fight Club. So this is like, and for years I've been seeing him in films going, just give him a fucking leading role. And you give him a leading role, I was like, he's really good. But one of the things is because it's about the foundation of the BAU in the FBI, the Behavioral Analysis Unit, how it all got started, with like slightly fictionalized versions of the characters of the agents. But they interview in the first like episode or two. They interview a guy who's meant to be it's Ed Kemper. They don't even change the name. It's Ed Kemper. Ed Kemper is a serial killer. The only reason he was
they interview the real guy.
No.
Okay.
But they use the tapes, the transcripts, and all the rest to get the thing correct. Now I've read about a lot of serial killers over the years because I just find them as a fascinating aberration of humankind. But
Looking for tips.
yeah, that too. Yeah. But when you actually see them, when the guy who plays him nails it, and when he's like talking, and when he's describing what he did, and the offhand way he described it, that kind of creeped me out a bit as well because it's the whole thing of this actually happened.
You get a visceral.
This is a real thing. This is not inflated in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And the guy's kind of lowballing what he did, and it's like this is pretty grim. And there's an element of that as well. It's the horror of humans are capable of this. Humans are the real monsters all along. Who would have thought? No,
Turns out it's man.
What if monsters end up being the real monsters all along?
That's actually
gonna be cool.
Land sharks.
It's in Left 4 Dead, the game. There's a bit where you go into the safe house. There's always graffiti on the walls. At one point, it's like, but humans are the real monsters on the wall. And then there's about 20 comments underneath it going, "Don't be so fucking stupid." Like,
there are zombies. That's the monster.
The monsters are right outside the door.
Another actually, I thought of a game that was a good horror game was Dying Light. I enjoyed that. I don't play a lot of horror games, but
Which one's Dying Light and which one's Dead Light?
Dying Light, I think it's Dying Light, is where it's a day-night game where in the day there are zombies walking around and you got to run around and survive, and then at night
you gotta hide.
Difficulty. Yeah, you basically got to hide.
You basically, it's I Am Legend. You go hide in your bathtub.
Exactly. Yeah, enjoy that.
The first time I played Minecraft, I had that fear. It was literally like as soon as I saw the thing, I was like, "Oh, cool!" But it was like that thing of I could lose all my progress. It wasn't like a scary thing. It was like fuck.
Yeah. I'm still not over
Dig a hole.
Mario Brothers.
But yeah, I think that's everything.
Are we done?
I think so.
Can we go to the pub and get lunch?
Yes,
absolutely.
We'll see. But thank you for listening in on the Halloween special, and thanks for Mike for being here.
Love it. I wish I could come back every week.
It's it's only a slight trek from LA to Dublin, so
we can do a remote. We'll do a remote.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
get you in for something else sometime.
Yeah.
So thanks a million.
Cool. Have fun.
Happy Halloween.
That's our show. Check Mike out on Twitter at Mike Comics. That's comics with an X. He's writing Star Trek Boldly Go, which comes out monthly from IDW Publishing. They're about to start a 4-issue tie-in with Star Trek Discovery. Remember to check us out at Dystropia on Facebook and Twitter. Have fun.